Chapter 1337. The wind stopped, and the rain dispersed. The clouds returned, and the moon returned. The two of them hugged each other tightly and fell into a deep sleep. They did not care about anything, did not think about anything, just wanted to enjoy this moment of peace. Zhu Yi's face was filled with a sweet smile. At this moment, she was no longer a high and mighty queen, but just a little woman to Yi Qinghan. Zhu Yi, what are the rules of the final battle? How are we going to withdraw from the final battle? One day later, both Yi Qinghan and Zhu Yi woke up. Xiaohe was still evolving and would probably not wake up for a while. Yi Qinghan simply carried Zhu Yi on the bed and asked her. Half of Zhu Yi's body was stuck to Yi Qinghan. Her fair skin was covered with bruises, especially her jade-like neck, which was filled with shocking kiss marks. On her plump, but there were also countless clear palm prints. Yi Qinghan was not much better. His body was covered with Zhu Yi's scratches and kiss marks. The two of them had been too wild last night, so much so that Zhu Yi was like a dead fish now, not wanting to move even half a finger. Fortunately, after venting out their emotions, the two of them had returned to normal. Zhu Yi lazily leaned against Yi Qinghan, then said, "The terrain of the planar battlefield is very simple. The Demon Mountains form a circle, and within it is the battlefield for the final battle. The center of the battlefield is Mount Pan. After a few years, the final battle will begin. Everyone will be teleported into the battlefield. Of course, people from different dimensions will be teleported together, forming a square formation. The terrain of the dimensional battlefield is even more strange and complicated. There are teleportation restrictions everywhere. If you are not careful, you'll be teleported. Of course, you will only be teleported inside the battlefield, not outside of the Demon Mountains. Once you enter the battlefield, you can start killing. The restrictions in the sky are even stronger and denser. There will also be fog inside, and your divine senses can only reach 1,000 meters. Once the final battle begins, the battlefield will be like hell. Even a 9th grade supreme martial artist will be ambushed and killed by enemies that appear from all directions if you are not careful. There are countless god-trapping restrictions there. Even a 9th grade supreme martial artist can be trapped. If you are not careful and get trapped, you will only become a live target waiting for death. 1 month after the start of the final battle, you can surrender or withdraw from the final battle. The terrain of each plane was fixed. The immortal world was a small mountain. So, after we enter, as long as we don't run around and guard the place for a month, we can immediately announce our withdrawal from the final battle. At that time, we'll be teleported to the peak of Mount Pan. We'll hand over our emblems, and we'll be considered the victorious plane. Although Zhu Yi had never participated in a planar war, the Fire God clan was the strongest clan in the divine world. They had participated in countless planar wars, and the clan had detailed records of all kinds of planar wars. 1 month? How could he only withdraw after a month? What kind of bullshastrous rule is that? After Yi Qinghan heard this, his body suddenly trembled, and his face turned pale. Zhu Yi flipped over and pressed herself on top of Yi Qinghan. Her 2 round snow-white hemispheres were pressed into 2 meat pancakes. Her brows slightly furrowed as she asked in puzzlement, "What's wrong, Great Emperor?" The planar wars had always been like this. Are you worried that a legion from another plane will attack us? You don't have to worry. Under normal circumstances, if we don't go out, it means that we don't want to participate in the final battle. The experts from the other planes will not attack us. Moreover, our terrain is a high mountain. When the time comes, we can let the Wind Moon Monarch set up some restrictions. With your strength, together with Gong Tian and us, even if the enemy attacks, it will be enough to deter them. They will naturally retreat. I hope so. Yi Qinghan listened and felt a little more at ease. However, his mouth revealed a trace of bitterness. The purple-robed lady forbade him from releasing any attacks in the planar battlefield. Originally, Yi Qinghan had decided not to make a move at the foot of Mount Pan. Now he didn't dare to make a move. At the foot of Mount Pan, during the final battle, the God Emperor Supremes would definitely be watching. Once he made a move, the special pressure of the cold energy would definitely attract the attention of the God Emperor Supremes. With the strength of the purple-robed lady, she wouldn't tease him for no reason. Moreover, she probably didn't have any balls. Therefore, Yi Qinghan reckoned that once he made a move, the God Emperor Supremes called Pan Xing would immediately blast the people of the deity realm into smithereens. Sigh. Xiaohe just happened to evolve during this period of time. I don't know if he can wake up before the final battle. Since the purple-robed lady can detect me, she can definitely detect Xiaohe as well. This means that Xiaohe's existence is normal. Even if he makes a move, that Pan Xing person won't care. Although Xiaohe's refining ability has increased a lot, can he refine so much energy in 10 years? Yi Qinghan secretly prayed. He prayed that they wouldn't meet a strong enemy in the final battle. He prayed that Xiaohe would finish evolving soon. Otherwise, with Gong Tian alone, if the deity realm army met a strong enemy, it was very likely that they would be completely annihilated. There are still 10 years left. I don't know if the Great Emperor and Beast God Jui are doing well. God Emperor Supremes, please bless them and let them get through these 10 years safely. I also hope that the Great Emperor can obtain enough points. In the camp of the deity realm army, the Ice Queen stood alone outside the passage of Demon Mountain. She had turned into a beautiful ice sculpture and stared at the passage of Demon Mountain. She had been standing here for several years. She was the queen of the Ice-Snow race. The Ice-Snow race had a cold temperament. They also cultivated the law of ice. Their race was cold all year round. They didn't like to communicate with outsiders and weren't good at expressing their inner feelings. However, after following Yi Qinghan for so many years, she was already used to following him. She didn't know if it was because of Yi Qinghan's strength or because of Yi Qinghan's charm, but she had an inexplicable sense of attachment to Yi Qinghan. Your Majesty, you have been standing here for several years. Are you tired? Don't worry. Emperor Han Yi is so strong and will definitely obtain enough points. Come, enter my palace to drink some tea. I have top-quality ecstasy tea there. A person suddenly appeared beside the Ice Queen. This person looked like a young man. He looked really handsome, and his actions were really elegant. He had a smile on his face that was really mesmerizing. However, the glow in his eyes when he looked at the Ice Queen made one feel disgusted. No need, King Gongwei, please go back. The Ice Queen acted like she didn't hear it. After a long while, she glanced coldly at the young man and said calmly. She continued to look at the passage of Demon Mountain and turned into an ice sculpture. Gongwei was a grade 9 king from the Water God race. He was one of the generals that came with Gong Tian and was weaker than him. He always had a good impression of the Ice Queen, or rather he had a strong desire to possess her. The Ice Queen had a beautiful face and strong strength, especially her cold body. If he hugged her and played with her, it would definitely be a different feeling. Yi Qinghan and Beast God Jui weren't here, so Gong Wei started to chat with the Ice Queen to try and conquer this ice beauty. The Ice Queen's calm gaze, especially the disdain in her eyes and her stubborn attitude, made Gong Wei a little embarrassed and angry. He said with a slightly heavier tone, "Your Majesty, I don't want to scold you, but why don't you take care of your body? The decisive battle is about to begin. You must conserve your strength and build up your strength in order to guard against any sudden changes. If Emperor Han Yi, the Beast God, and Zhu Yi all die in the Devil Mountain, the God Realm can only rely on our clan and your Majesty." The Ice Queen's reply was really quick. Before Gong Wei even finished, killing intense surge from her body. Her aura soared, and the surrounding temperature dropped. She stared at Gong Wei coldly and said word by word, "Emperor won't die. Beast God and Zhu, you won't die either. If you dare to say such words again, I won't be polite, Scram." Chapter 1338. Scoff. You don't know what's good for you. Gong Wei's face instantly turned green. He stared in rage, and the aura around his body rose up. There were 7 experts in the God World camp, and 5 of them were from the Water God race. This Ice Queen actually dared to tell him to scram in front of so many people? He looked at the weird gazes from the numerous low-grade martial artists around. His face was filled with rage and embarrassment. He pointed at the Ice Queen and scolded. I am reminding you that you have participated in the planar war and know how dangerous Demon Mountain is. What if the Emperor and the others die, and God World doesn't rely on our race? It will definitely be wiped out. You still dare to treat me like that, you smelly... Shio! Ice Queen didn't say another word. A cold, intent rumbled from her body, and snow fell from the sky. Numerous ice shards formed and shot towards Gong Wei. Hong! Gong Wei didn't expect Ice Queen to really dare to attack. When he reacted, numerous ice shards shot over. His body flew backward and his body was smashed into a bloody mess. However, it was obvious that Ice Queen held back. If not, he would definitely die from such a close distance. Shio! Several people flew out from the camp. Gong Tian and the others were shocked by Ice Queen's attack. Wind Moon Sovereigns were also shocked, and they immediately flew behind Ice Queen. Ice Queen, what is the meaning of this? Gong Tian looked at Gong Wei, who was in a bloody mess, and his face turned green. The other 3 Grade 9 martial artists' faces were dark and sunken. Space power gathered, and killing intent surged around. Nothing. This person deserves a beating, scoff. If we weren't in the planar battlefield, he would have died. Ice Queen didn't fear anything. She looked coldly at Gong Tian and didn't even bother to explain. Scoff. You are asking to die. Emperor, kill this be***h. The 3 Grade 9 Water God Lords were furious. They gathered their space power and waited for Gong Tian to give the order to attack. The atmosphere became tense, and a huge battle was about to break out. Scoff, you want to attack? Come at me and see if I will even blink. Ice Queen scoffed coldly. Space power gathered on her body, and snowflakes fell, causing the space around to freeze. Scoff, you think I don't dare? I can crush you like an ant. Gong Tian was infuriated by Ice Queen's attitude. A blood-red spear appeared in his hand. Instantly killing intent covered Ice Queen. Although Wind Moon Sovereign didn't know why Ice Queen would attack, he believed in her character. He gritted his teeth and stepped forwards. He stared furiously. Gong Tian, if you dare to touch the queen, then kill me too. Let's see how you will die when the Emperor returns. Your clan will be exterminated. Xiao. From the rear of the main camp, countless warriors suddenly shot out. They were all 5th, 6th, and 7th grade war gods. They were the experts of Yi Qinghan's Yi family army. Although they didn't know what had happened, they knew that Yi Qinghan and Ice Queen had a good relationship. As for the water god race, they didn't give the god world warriors a good impression. So the higher-ups of the Yi family army, the commanders and captains, braved the solemn atmosphere and charged forwards. They all stood behind Ice Queen and didn't say a single word. They just stood there silently and stared furiously at Gong Tian and the others. Xiao! The moment the Yi family army commanders and captains moved, the entire Yi family army was alerted. Like a swarm of locusts, they surrounded the battlefield. They didn't say a single word, but the killing intent on their bodies gathered. It was actually able to go up against Gong Tian's killing intent. Ice Queen glanced coldly and laughed coldly. She looked at Gong Tian, whose face turned dark and sunken. Gong Tian, your subordinate actually cursed the Emperor to die. I didn't kill him today, and that is already giving you face. If you want to take revenge for your subordinate, then come at me. The moment Ice Queen said this, the expressions of the hundreds of thousands of Yi family army changed. Killing intent surged into the sky like a rainbow piercing through the sun. Hundreds of thousands of cold gazes shot towards Gong Tian on the ground. The coldness in their eyes could freeze Gong Tian into ice. If you want to kill the queen, you have to step over our corpses. Water god race trash. You actually dare to curse the Emperor? I will rip all of you apart. Brothers, kill them. Anyone who curses the Emperor will be killed. Chop these bastards. Ice Queen's casual words were like an explosion. Numerous Yi family army soldiers shot out, the blades in their hands rumbled. Tens of thousands of them didn't say a word and charged towards Gong Tian and the others. Stop! Ice Queen didn't expect that Yi Qinghan would actually have such influence in the Yi family army. She wanted to stir up their will to fight the enemy together, But who knew that they would be so rash to actually start killing right away? While they were panicking, the sky full of snow swept down. The huge space power suppressed their attacks. Gong Tian and the others' faces were ashen white, especially Gong Tian. He knew that Yi Qinghan didn't die. Otherwise, he would have died long ago. Originally, he didn't plan to attack and just wanted to regain some face. Now that Yi Qinghan's subordinates were so rash, once a chaotic battle broke out, he wouldn't be able to suppress them. If his subordinates killed all of Yi Qinghan's subordinates, once Yi Qinghan returned, with Yi Qinghan's personality, the entire water god race would be wiped out. Thus, he hurriedly released his spatial energy to suppress his subordinates and shouted, "Stop!" Ice Queen's face flushed red. She flew into the air and cupped her fist towards them. "Ye family army, listen to my orders. All of you return. The Emperor hates internal conflicts. If you are so rash, when he returns, he will be sad. Don't worry, Gong Tian and the others won't fight amongst themselves. Am I right?" "Of course not. They won't. Gong Tian's expression became really awkward under everyone's gazes. He could only grit his teeth and agree. Looking at the countless vicious gazes around him, his heart was incomparably furious and jealous. Yi Qinghan actually had such a great influence in the divine realm, and was so loved and respected by the martial artists of the divine realm. Perhaps even he himself did not have such a great rallying power in the Water God clan. Yi family army return. The queen is right. We can bleed for the emperor, but we can't make him sad. Return. Whoever dares to make the emperor sad, I will chop him up. Listen to the queen and return. If they dare to attack, we will rip them apart." The Yi family army came really quickly and left really quickly. After the few commanders hollered, hundreds of thousands of them surged back like a flood and returned to their camps. "Let's go." Gong Tian scoffed coldly, bringing Gong Wei and the others into his space god artifact. Ice Queen flew down, but didn't say anything. She continued to stare stubbornly at the Demon Mountain Tunnel and turned into an ice sculpture. Emperor, we can't take this lying down. If this spreads back to God World, our water god race will lose all our face. Our ancestors will be ashamed. Within Gong Tian's space god artifact, a grade 9 king scolded the moment he entered. The others looked at Gong Tian with a burning gaze like they were waiting for his orders. Gong Tian scolded, "Idiot, do you want me to die? Do you want the entire water god race to be wiped out? Yi Qinghan isn't dead. If we can't kill all of them and one escapes, or if they have a special method to send messages, the entire water god race will be wiped out by Yi Qinghan. Then what should we do?" Gong Wei's injuries were much better. He struggled to stand up and said viciously, "There is no rush." A sliver of viciousness flashed through Gong Tian's eyes as he hatefully said, "The great battle is about to begin. If the situation in the god realm is dire, I'll threaten Yi Qinghan and make him return my soul fire. At that time, we'll kill him. Since we've already stepped into the planar battlefield, if we don't die this time, we'll be able to kill Yi Qinghan. When we return, we'll unify the immortal world and restore the ancient glory of our water god clan. Yi Qinghan, that bastard, as long as I get the chance, I'll definitely tear him to pieces and toy with his women to death." Chapter 1339. Foxy, that old fellow isn't dead, right? In the most luxurious palace in the beastman's camp, the snake-headed beastman stared coldly at the fox-headed lady beside him with his triangular, blood-red eyes. The fox-headed lady revealed a charming expression on her furry face. She looked around proudly and smiled charmingly. "He's not dead. I drugged him and made him dizzy. Even if he wanted to die, he couldn't. How could a mere 9th grade cultivator resist my Foxy's bewitchment?" The 9th grade supreme cultivators felt their hearts tighten under Foxy's gaze. Clearly, they had suffered a lot from Foxy's bewitchment. The snake-headed beastman was not afraid at all. He said coldly, "There are still 3 years before the final battle. Go and gather all the commanders. We need to make arrangements. When the time comes, we will break through the divine realm's stronghold and kill everyone there. Then we will obtain the 3 paragon spiritual treasures. A burly beast man with a Chelan head stood up and dashed out of the palace. Soon, he returned with more than 100 beast men with powerful auras. They were all 9th grade experts, and more than 20 of them were even at the upper 9th grade. The Beastman dimension was indeed very powerful. Greetings, Your Majesty. Greetings, commanders. The palace was very spacious. There was plenty of room for more than 100 people to enter. All of them prostrated on the ground and bowed. After the snake-headed beastman made a nasal sound, they split into 2 groups and stood respectfully. The snake-headed beastman's triangular, blood-red eyes swept across the palace. Then he said coldly, "The final battle is about to begin. This time, the goal of our great Beastman dimension is not to take first place, but to destroy a dimension. The Divine Realm dimension." Whoosh! As soon as the snake-headed beastman finished speaking, more than 100 beastman commanders burst into an uproar. They looked at each other and started discussing. The deity world was simply too famous in the Pan realm. In ancient times, the deity world had always won the planar wars, slaughtering a large number of experts from other planes and conquering a quarter of the major planes in the Pan realm. At that time, no plane had been able to compete with the deity world. In the planar battlefield, if one did not encounter the Divine Realm army, they would either die or be severely injured. The ancient era's 10 clans were all favored by the heavens. All of them possessed special skills. When they joined hands, they were simply unstoppable. On top of that, the immortal world had obtained the first place in the rankings many times and obtained a large number of supreme spiritual treasures. Their offensive power was also ridiculously strong, and no other plane dared to compete with them. The only thing that puzzled the commanders was that the Divine World plane had already weakened. Moreover, although they had some enmity with the Beastmen plane in the past, they wouldn't have given up on first place just to annihilate the Divine World Legion, right? Silence. Foxy suddenly spoke. Her soft voice filled the air, and suddenly the hall was silent. She smiled charmingly at the snake-headed half-beastman and said, "There are 10 commander-level powerhouses from the Divine World this time. 2 of them are senior commander-level powerhouses, but they have 3 Paragon Spirit treasures." Although the glory of being the top scorer was incomparably important, obtaining these 3 supreme spiritual treasures was even more important. Furthermore, because we were the ones who destroyed the Celestial Realm's army, we will be the first to attack the Celestial Realm. In ancient times, the Celestial Realm obtained many treasures. Think about it. As long as we destroy the Celestial Realm, those countless treasures will be ours. That's right, that's right. Lady Foxy is wise and mighty. Why didn't we think of that? Destroy the Celestial Realm and rob them of all their treasures. I want the Celestial Realm's beauties. I heard that their beauties are made of water. Wah! Destroy the Celestial Realm. Destroy the Celestial Realm. Celestial Realm's beauties? I heard that the Celestial Realm has a race called the Enchantress race. They're the most precious treasures that the heavens have bestowed upon men. I heard that their bodies can glow, and that thing down there can also shine. Wah! Let's go to the Celestial Realm. I want the Enchantress race's beauties. The group of half-beastmen began to shout excitedly. There were also quite a few beast-like men whose faces were flushed and their bodies heated up. They rubbed their palms together as if they were about to attack the Celestial Realm. When Foxy saw the group of people speaking such filthy and vulgar words, her face turned cold. She angrily said, "Silence. I didn't say anything. If anyone says another word, I'll kill them without mercy." Foxy's fame spread far and wide, and no one dared to speak again. When the snake-headed half-beastman saw that the half-beastmen were excited and filled with fighting spirit, he waved his hand, and the vital energy of heaven and earth above the palace began to gather together, forming a landscape painting. This landscape painting was very large, and it covered the entire palace. The scenery was incredibly realistic. It looked more like a map, with lush, ancient trees, mountain peaks, stone forests, canyons, deserts, and all sorts of other topography. In particular, there was a cylindrical peak in the middle of the painting. It was incomparably eye-catching. Everyone look closely. This is the topography of Coiling Mountain. When the battle begins, we will be teleported to the bottom left. According to the records left behind by our ancestors, the celestial realm will be teleported to the top left. We are very far away from the celestial realm, and there are at least 13 major planes between us. What we need to do is to pierce through them within a month and reach the celestial realm's territory. Without waiting for them to surrender, we'll kill them all. The snake-headed half-beastman stood up, a large hand covered in black scales pointing at the map in the air. His triangular eyes were filled with killing intent. Your Majesty, there are 13 major planes. How can we rush over in a month? If we start a war with other planes along the way, it will definitely attract the experts of other planes. Although we won't lose, I'm afraid we won't be able to make it in a month. That's right, Your Majesty. What if the celestial realm is no longer defended? Even if we rush over, what if they go to the celestial realm to participate in the war? That's right, Your Majesty. What if the celestial realm is destroyed before we even get there? Then wouldn't we have come for nothing? Countless commanders voiced their doubts one after another, and for a moment, the hall was bustling with noise again. The half-beastmen captains twisted their fat bodies, their faces flushed red as they loudly expressed their opinions. The snake-headed half-beastman didn't need to say anything. With a cold snort, all the half-beastman captains immediately shut up and looked at him with dry eyes. There are only 2 captains in the celestial realm, so they definitely won't participate in the war. Moreover, one of their captains will enter the Demon Mountain, so I estimate that 5 million points will definitely be enough. Therefore, I predict that after the decisive battle, they will defend their stronghold and will definitely announce their withdrawal from the war in a month. As for destroying them from other planes, this is impossible. There are no powerful planes near the celestial realm's stronghold. The snake-headed half-beastman's black hand swiped across the map in the air and said faintly, "As for piercing through 13 planes in a month, I have my own definition. As long as you listen to my arrangements, I can guarantee that in less than 20 days, we will be able to reach the celestial realm's stronghold." Seeing that the snake-headed half-beastman was full of confidence, the captains immediately relaxed and shouted in unison, "Your Majesty is wise and mighty. This time, you will definitely succeed. The celestial realm will not be able to escape this calamity." The snake-headed half-beastman stood with his hands behind his back, and the map in the air collapsed. His blood-red triangular eyes shone brightly as he looked at the Demon Mountain through the palace's entrance and murmured faintly, "Humph. I am determined to obtain the 3 supreme spiritual treasures. Celestial Realm's great commanders, you actually dared to kill our half-beast plane's 4 great commanders. I will definitely make you wish you were dead, and your celestial realm will flow with rivers of blood." Chapter 1340. The final battle is about to begin, but Xiao He still hasn't woken up. This is really troublesome. I can only pray that no strong enemies will come to attack us. In the War Emperor Palace, Yi Qinghan sat cross-legged on the bed, wearing a pair of black long pants. His upper body was bare, revealing his strong, wheat-colored muscles. He held a 2-meter-long black saber in his hand, and his face was full of worry. "Great Emperor!" A pair of dazzling jade-like hands reached out from behind him and hugged his strong and sturdy chest. Following that, a beautiful face that was both angry and happy appeared from behind him and rested on his shoulder. She kissed him on the cheek and asked seductively, "What are you thinking about? Did he not serve you well just now? This is the first time I've used a harem flower to serve you, and I'm not used to it yet. Next time, he must perform well, okay?" Yi Qinghan smiled, temporarily suppressing the worry in his heart. He reached out to touch Zhu Yi's smooth face, turned his head, and pecked her red lips, saying, "It's none of your business. I'm just worried about the final battle." "Great Emperor, it's not that I want to criticize you, but with your strength, no 9th-grade supreme martial artist is a match for you. With you here, who dares to come forward and court death? We're just defending and won't participate in the battle. I think even the stupidest experts from the alien planes won't come to bite us. Zhu Yi had been intimate with Yi Qinghan for the past few years, and became more and more subdued by his manly charm. Yi Qinghan was very gentle to others, and even more so to his woman. Women in this world love to attach themselves to the strong, and Yi Qinghan was the strongest among the strong. Moreover, his character was so outstanding. How could Zhu Yi not be infatuated with him? I hope so. Yi Qinghan was suffering in silence. His soul had mutated, and his cold power was strange, so he couldn't fight in the final battle. And there was also the threat of the divine Emperor Supreme Martial Artist, so he dared not tell anyone. It wasn't that he didn't trust Zhu Yi. It was just that he was suffering enough to bear this kind of pressure alone. Why should he let his woman suffer with him? Letting out a long breath, Yi Qinghan pretended to be relaxed. He turned around and said tenderly, Yi, if we can survive this, come back to Flame Dragon City with me. I will treat you well. If you like to play the game of Virtual Phoenix and Fake Phoenix, you can play with Ling. He, of course, we can play together. Zhu Yi blushed. She hit Yi Qinghan a few times with her jade-like hands, but it only caused her breast to roll up and down. She said angrily, I don't like to play that kind of game. Those things are cold, not as good as yours. When Yi was young, she hated men because the women of her clan were humiliated. However, ever since the first time let's not talk about it anymore, it's so embarrassing. When Yi Qinghan heard this, his curiosity was piqued. He used one hand to carry Zhu Yi over and let her lie on his lap. After that, he picked up the 2-meter-long slaughter god blade and slapped it down on her snow-white buttocks. He said fiercely, Continue. If not, this great emperor will make your buttocks bloom. Great emperor, please spare my life. This little girl is afraid of you. Great emperor, you are so overbearing. Zhu Yi writhed in pain. Her white body dazzled Yi Qinghan. Her black hair, which was tied up in a bun, became messy, making her look even more charming. She crawled up and straddled Yi Qinghan's body. She wrapped her arms around his neck, bit her delicate lips, and lowered her brows. 2 blushes appeared on her cheeks, and even the tips of her ears were red. After a long while, she said in a low voice, This is the first time I was raped by you. Although I'm incomparably indignant, incomparably bashful, but there's a feeling that I've never felt before. The more you tortured me, the more excited I felt. Especially when you sprayed the thing on my face, I felt my soul trembling. Oh, great emperor, is he very shameless? Is he a slut? Yi Qinghan looked at Zhu Yi seriously and nodded his head seriously. A little, but I like it. Ha! Zhu Yi waved her fist and lightly punched Yi Qinghan's chest. Finally, she buried her head into Yi Qinghan's chest and said shyly, Oh, I'm not coming anymore. Emperor, you are making fun of me. Yi Qinghan gently stroked Zhu Yi's hair, then cupped her face with both hands and said seriously, I don't mean to tease you. Everyone has their own life experiences, and everyone has their own personality. It's fine as long as they're not evil. As for how you want to live, just follow your heart and don't worry about what others think. As long as you can live happily, it is fine. What is more important than your own happiness in this world? Great emperor, is the best. Zhu Yi giggled. Then, she suddenly thought of something and laughed. She laughed so much that her eyebrows curved. She said sneakily, Great emperor, take Ice Queen. I think she has a good impression of you. Ice Queen's body is the snow spirit body. If you do it, it is really interesting. What nonsense are you talking about? Who do you think I am? Do you think I can just do whatever I want? That is a stud, an animal. Do you think I am such a casual person? Yi Qinghan glared at Zhu Yi and said in a righteous manner. After that, he pursed his lips and glanced at Zhu Yi as if nothing had happened. He asked in a low voice, She really has feelings for me? Outside of Demon Mountain, God World Army Camp, Ice Queen was like an ice sculpture standing outside of the Demon Mountain tunnel. Her creamy face and pitch-black eyes stared at the dark tunnel. Under her snow-white dress was a beautiful body that swayed in the wind like a snow lotus on an ice mountain. Xiao! In the distance, a person dashed over and stood in front of Ice Queen. He cupped his fists and said respectfully, "Queen, time is almost up. Can you gather the soldiers to prepare?" Almost? Ice Queen's eyes finally moved. She turned around and looked at Wind Moon Monarch. She waved her hand and struck out an energy wave, causing the air to shake. Gontian isn't dead. The Emperor is still alive. Gather the God World Army and prepare for the final battle. Ice Queen looked at the 5 people she had forced out, and her face flushed red. She smiled sweetly and hollered, "Ye family army, listen up. All God World Army, listen up. Pack up and gather. Prepare to enter the battlefield and welcome the Emperor back." Xiao! Wind Moon Monarch's shout was like a fuse. Numerous people shot out from the camp. When they saw that Gontian was still alive, their morale was boosted. Gontian was Yi Qinghan's sole slave. This news had already spread out among the low-grade cultivators. Since Gontian wasn't dead, then Yi Qinghan was still alive. 1,000,000 warriors were packed up in just a moment. All of them were equipped with weapons and armor and were filled with killing intent. They stood in an orderly manner outside the tunnel and waited to be teleported into the battlefield. Gontian and the others exchanged glances with one another and started to prepare themselves. Although they knew that the teleportation wouldn't go wrong, what if something went wrong and they teleported to the side of the army? Ice Queen and Wind Moon Monarch stood at the front. Their eyes were as bright as stars. They looked at the tall demon mountain and waited silently. Wong! Finally, a beam of white light enveloped everyone, and an irresistible force enveloped everyone. Everyone's vision blurred, and the scene in front of them changed. They appeared on a mountain peak. The ground of the mountain peak was extremely flat, and the 1,000,000 people still maintained their original formation, neat and austere. Chapter 1341. No one paid attention to the situation around them. They also didn't look at the peak of Pan Mountain that reached into the clouds. The gazes of the 1,000,000 people gathered on one point, on a fiery red-back view at the front of the formation. As for the green-shirt girl beside him, everyone naturally ignored her. The fiery red-back view was really tall, like a sword that came out of its sheath. He looked even taller than Pan Mountain in the distance. His black hair fluttered in the wind. One could see his firm and defined side profile. Of course, one could also see the 2-meter-long black blade on his back. "Greetings, Emperor!" The 1,000,000 warriors, Ice Queen, Wind Moon Sovereign, and Gong Tian didn't hesitate. Under the formless aura of the back view, they all knelt down on one knee and shouted in unison. The sonorous sound reverberated throughout the mountain peak and spread all around. It didn't stop for a long time. Yi Qinghan didn't turn his head and didn't say anything. His gaze was deep and distant as he looked at the 1,000,000-meter-tall mountain. He didn't speak for a long time before sighing. "Pan Mountain, I am here." Pan Mountain was like a black pillar stabbed into the center of the battlefield. It was tens of thousands of meters long and millions of meters tall. On the surface, it didn't look any different from a mountain. The black stone outside was the same as the stone in the tunnel. However, it did give one a faint sense of pressure. Even Yi Qinghan felt his heart palpitate. The peak of Pan Mountain looked really flat from here. Of course, from here, Yi Qinghan couldn't see the 3 wooden houses. He also couldn't see the black shadow standing on the peak. Yi Qinghan looked for a moment, but didn't notice anything. With his strength and his body being refined by God power many times, his eyesight was really terrifying. Moreover, he noticed something really weird. His spiritual sense could only reach 10,000 meters, but his eyesight could see even further than that. The battlefield was really weird. There was a thick white fog all around. Even Yi Qinghan couldn't see more than 100,000 meters, and his spiritual sense could only reach 10,000 meters. However, even though Mount Pan was so far away, it was still possible to see it clearly. After observing for a while, Yi Qinghan turned his head around and swept his blade-like gaze across everyone's faces. He didn't emit any aura, but everyone could sense a vast emperor's pressure that enveloped the peak like a dark cloud. Even Gong Tian, a 9th-grade sovereign, felt his soul palpitating. "Get up! Yi Qinghan's raspy and deep voice sounded on the mountain peak. Wind Moon Monarch. Use all your strength to lay down restrictions. Make this mountain impenetrable by water and fire. Similarly, it didn't have to be lethal, but it had to be intimidating. Ice Queen, assist him. Gongtian, lead your men to defend the area. Yi family army, listen up, defensive formation, prepare for battle. Understood. The million people shouted in unison. They all started to move in an orderly manner. Wind Moon Sovereign and Ice Queen started to lay down restrictions on the mountain peak. The Million God World Army split into 10 teams and defended the area. There were also many small scout teams that patrolled the foot of the mountain. Gongtian and the other force scattered at the corners of the mountain peak. They were on high alert, spreading out their divine senses to scout all around. Queen Zhu Yi, Beast God. Why isn't he back? Ice Queen helped Wind Moon Sovereign lay down restrictions. She would occasionally glance at Yi Qinghan and Zhu Yi. In the end, she couldn't help but send a voice transmission to Zhu Yi. Yi Qinghan and Zhu Yi stood on the peak and looked at the busy crowd. They didn't say a word. When Zhu Yi heard Ice Queen's voice transmission, her face dimmed. Beast God's life and death is uncertain. He might have fallen. Ice Queen, don't mention this in front of the Emperor. He is already really sad. Whoa, Emperor. Ice Queen turned her head and looked deeply at Yi Qinghan. Looking at the solemn and lonely expression on his face, her heart couldn't help but hurt. Her footsteps trembled and she nearly fell. She quickly patted her chest and her face turned red again. The Wind Moon Monarch's heart wavered when he saw this. Zhu Yi sent a voice transmission once more. However, we have enough points. Spread the news and tell everyone to defend this place. A month later, we will announce that we will retreat from the battle. Ice Queen was pumped up and spread the news all around. Not long later, this news spread to the ears of every God World martial artist. Instantly, the morale of the God World army was boosted. Joy appeared on their faces. They looked at the fiery red body on the mountain peak, their gazes filled with fervor and respect. The Yi family army started to defend in an orderly manner. Wind Moon Sovereign also swiftly laid down restrictions. Yi Qinghan only requested for the restrictions to be strong enough to scare people. This was easy to lay out. In just half a day, the restrictions at the foot of the mountain were laid out. Only a small opening was left for the God World martial artists to enter. The other areas were all sealed up. Zhu Yi Gongtian, follow me. As for the others, defend here. Without my orders, no one is allowed to step down the mountain. A day later, Yi Qinghan had laid down the Wind Moon Sovereign's restrictions. He shouted towards Gongtian. Zhu Yi brought Yi Qinghan down the mountain. After Gongtian was stunned, he followed right away. The three of them followed the path that Wind Moon Sovereign left and headed towards the nearby area. Emperor, where are we going? Gongtian followed behind Yi Qinghan and Zhu Yi and asked curiously. Let's scout around. Yi Qinghan casually replied. He opened up his divine sense and started to scout around. Although he was familiar with the battlefield under Zhu Yi's guidance, he still felt like he wouldn't be at ease if he didn't scout around. After getting down the mountain, it was all flat ground. The three of them started to scout to the left. Yi Qinghan believed that with his powerful divine sense, no one would discover that he was scouting around. Thus, he let Zhu Yi lead the way and started running. After running for 1,000,000 miles, Yi Qinghan found countless restrictions along the way. These restrictions were hidden very cleverly. If it weren't for Yi Qinghan's powerful divine sense, he probably wouldn't have been able to find them. After 1,000,000 miles, the terrain in front of them started to change. The speed of the three also started to slow down. An ancient forest appeared in front of them. The dense ancient trees soared into the sky. Vines and thorns covered the ground, making it even more difficult to scout with divine sense. Stop, turn left, slow down. We've discovered a creature from another plane. Yi Qinghan shouted in a low voice. Zhu Yi and Gongtian quickly stopped. According to Yi Qinghan's instructions, they quietly moved to the left. They didn't dare to release their aura for fear of alerting the enemy. It's an 8-clawed golden dragon. Is this race powerful? Yi Qinghan quietly asked Zhu Yi through telepathy. His divine sense could detect that there were golden dragons hiding everywhere in the forest in front of them. Each of them had 8 claws, but their bodies were very small, only more than 10 meters long. If it weren't for Yi Qinghan, he definitely wouldn't have been able to detect them from such a distance. When Zhu Yi heard this, she revealed an expression of "I knew it." She relaxed and smiled as she transmitted her voice. They're not strong. This race was enslaved by the heavenly realm. All their powerhouses were killed. It's only been a few million years. There shouldn't be many peak powerhouses born. Emperor, have you detected a 12-clawed golden dragon? A 12-clawed golden dragon is comparable to a human rank 9 powerhouse. A 14-clawed golden dragon is comparable to a superior rank 9 powerhouse. An 8-clawed one is a low-level one, about the same as an emperor god. Chapter 1342. Yi Qinghan shook his head. The three of them circled half a circle around the dense forest. Yi Qinghan's divine sense quietly probed into the depths of the forest, but he did not detect any experts with more than 10 claws. Let's go. This plane isn't a threat to us. Yi Qinghan ordered, and Zhu Yi brought him back. Gong Tian asked curiously, Emperor, since there aren't any experts, then why not kill them all? Why ask so much? Yi Qinghan turned his head and looked coldly at Gong Tian. A cold glow flashed in his eyes. Although she didn't say anything about the conflict between Ice Queen and Gong Tian, Wind Moon's sovereign told him about it. Yes, yes. Gong Tian smiled awkwardly and dashed away. When Yi Qinghan turned his head, a vicious glow flashed in his eyes. Hatred surged like he wanted to swallow Yi Qinghan whole. Damn, the right is actually the evil demon army? If Xiao He wakes up, then I will let Xiao He swallow them all. Half a day later, Yi Qinghan arrived at the right side of the deity realm's territory. However, he was surprised to find black fog rolling about in a valley. Waves of evil and ice-cold aura spread over before they even got close, which greatly surprised him. Kiki, Emperor, there is no need to be surprised. Actually, the planes that are close will usually be teleported to nearby. Evil Demon World and God World are close. This Golden Dragon plane isn't far from God World, which is why it is so close. Zhu Yi wasn't surprised at all and giggled. The reason why she was so confident was that they could defend for a month. It was precisely because of the fact that the God Realm had conquered all of the major planes in the vicinity in the past, and all of their experts had been killed. How could it be easy for them to recover in just a few million years? Yi Qinghan looked behind him, only to discover that it was all flat ground. After running for 1,000,000 miles, he could actually see the Demon Mountain in the distance. However, Zhu Yi explained that he couldn't enter the Demon Mountain from here. If he wanted to leave this place, he would have to pass through the peak of Mount Pan. 2 days later, Yi Qinghan had thoroughly investigated the surrounding area. He had originally wanted to see if there were any special terrains that would make it easy for him to escape or defend. However, he didn't discover anything. To his left and right were armies from other planes. Behind him was the Demon Mountain, and in front of him was Mount Pan. This battlefield was like a cage that trapped everyone within, and it was impossible for them to leave quietly. They could only defend the stronghold and wait for a month. Xiao He is still in a deep sleep. I don't know if he'll wake up. Hopefully, he'll be able to get through this month safely. Yi Qinghan stood on the mountain peak and looked into the distance at Mount Pan that stood above everyone in Pangaea. Although Zhu Yi had always emphasized that there would be no strong enemies attacking, he always felt an inexplicable palpitation in his heart, as if something bad would happen. All Level 9 martial artists participating in the planar war, listen up. At this moment, a cold voice suddenly rang in Yi Qinghan's ears. The voice was incomparably faint, as if it came from the 9 heavens, yet it also seemed to be right in front of him. It was incomparably clear. The voice contained a cold intent, as well as a faint murderous aura. The supreme pressure was incomparably clear, making people want to prostrate themselves in worship. Supreme Divine Emperor! Yi Qinghan suddenly exchanged a look with Zhu Yi and exclaimed, Gong Tian and the others also came to their senses. What was incomparably strange was that the Yi family army and all the low-level martial artists on the mountain peak turned a deaf ear to it. They didn't react at all. Pan Xing, Yi Qinghan secretly exclaimed in his heart. This aura, this faint murderous aura, was exactly the same as the murderous aura that had swept across his body in Demon Mountain. Even with his formidable strength, he couldn't muster up any will to fight. Yi Qinghan dared to conclude that this was definitely the Pan Xing that the woman in purple had mentioned. As expected, the voice rang out again, confirming Yi Qinghan's judgment. My name is Pan Xing, and I'm the manager of the Pan Realm. The rules of this planar war have changed. The army with the highest score will directly obtain a defensive supreme spiritual treasure. In addition, the expert who kills the most 9th-grade supreme martial artists will be rewarded with another defensive supreme spiritual treasure. Kill to your heart's content, ha ha ha. As soon as the Supreme Divine Emperor Pan Xing finished speaking, the entire planar battlefield was instantly stirred up. Armies from countless big plains started to riot. They directly rushed down the stronghold and began to advance towards the bloody desert, the battleground of the previous great battles. Even Zhu Yi and the others were dumbfounded by the Supreme Divine Emperor's generosity. Gong Tian and the others were restless, their murderous aura surging from their bodies. If it weren't for the fact that Yi Qinghan didn't move, they would all want to participate in the great battle royale. Supreme Spiritual Treasure. In the previous planar battlefield, one had to rank first 3 times in a row to have the opportunity to obtain a supreme spiritual treasure. Now, the first place was directly rewarded, and it was the most precious defensive supreme spiritual treasure. And 2 at once? How could the planes that thought they were powerful not take action? What is the Supreme Divine Emperor trying to do? However, Yi Qinghan's heart surged with a deep vigilance. His soul was incomparably powerful, and he had comprehended many kinds of soul skills. Just now, he felt that the Supreme Divine Emperor Pan Xing's words were mixed with a soul skill. It was similar to his demonic voice, which secretly stimulated the killing intent in the hearts of the warriors in the planar battlefield. Using a soul skill and throwing out 2 supreme spiritual treasures, was he trying to make the people in the planar battlefield go crazy? Originally, because of the many years of killing in the planar battlefield, the aura inside would quietly affect the souls of the warriors, making them more bloodthirsty. At this moment, it would be strange if the planar battlefield didn't riot. He turned his head and looked at Gong Tian and the others with killing intent in his eyes. Even Zhu Yi and the Ice Queen had faint killing intent on them. They hurriedly shouted, "Everyone, don't move. Stand guard where you are. Do you want to die?" Yi Qinghan used the demonic voice when he said that. Under his strong soul, it instantly cleared the killing intent in everyone's heads. Everyone's bodies shook. Along with Yi Qinghan's words, it was like a heavenly law to them. All of them suppressed the killing intent in their hearts and looked at Mount Pan in the distance. They sighed. Zhu Yi looked at Pan Shan fearfully, then said excitedly, "Great Emperor, we will be even safer now. With the God Emperor's order, 2/3 of the legions will not continue to wait and watch. They will all rush towards the bloody Gobi Desert and engage in a chaotic battle." Blood-red Gobi Desert? Yi Qinghan asked curiously. Zhu Yi explained, "That is the old rule of the planar battlefield. The decisive battle will be held there, at the foot of Mount Pan. As there are the least restrictions there, the fog is thin, the visibility is good, and the terrain is wide. Normally, chaotic battles will occur there. That place is a desert, and because many people died there, it was dyed red. The warriors of Pangaea like to call that place the blood-red Gobi Desert. It's better to call it the goddamned Gobi Desert." Yi Qinghan's gaze followed the tall Mount Pan to the foot of the mountain. Although all he saw was a vast expanse of whiteness, a scene appeared in his mind. From all directions, countless black dragons were rapidly gathering towards the blood-red Gobi Desert. The powerhouses of the various plains led their warriors, brandishing their swords and straightening their spines. With heavy footsteps, they began to fight the enemies in all directions. Blood splattered, Heads flew, and broken limbs were everywhere. Fresh blood dyed the Gobi Desert, staining hundreds of millions of pairs of eyes. The killing intent in the air was like a rainbow, and blood rained down. The entire world was filled with a somber and bloody aura. And on the peak of Mount Pan, perhaps there was a person standing there indifferently, the corners of his mouth curled up into a smile, looking at the group of ants, fighting until their heads bled over a few bones that he had thrown away, fighting excitedly, killing merrily for some reason. Yi Qinghan felt a strong sense of irony. He looked at the peak of Mount Pan and quietly raised his middle finger. He cursed, "Goddamned Gobi Desert." Chapter 1343. Pan Xing. What are you doing? Do you know that if you do this, at least 2/3 of the people below will die? In reality, Yi Qinghan was right. There were indeed people watching the show at the peak of Mount Pan, and there were two of them. However, Pan Shi wasn't in the mood to watch the show. Her beautiful eyes were filled with rage as she glared at Pan Xing, who was standing at the edge of Mount Pan and looking down with a smile. Pan Xing didn't even turn his head. He just tilted his head slightly and sneered. "Pan Shi, I control the laws of heaven and earth and the laws of Pangaea. I am in charge of the matters of this planar battlefield. Do I need to explain to you what I want to do?" Pan Shi was so angry that her expression changed slightly. Her body trembled slightly as she said angrily, "Aren't you doing this to make all the experts attack at full power? Aren't you trying to find the person who went in and out of Pangaea's barrier? What if you sensed wrongly and this person doesn't exist? Wouldn't the people below have died for nothing?" Pan Xing sneered and said, "I want to find him. If I don't find him and tear him to pieces, I won't be able to rest easy." Died for nothing? Pan Shi, haven't you forgotten something? This planar battlefield is the grave of the experts of Pangaea. They came here to die. How can they die for nothing? Pan, she was startled. She was speechless. After a moment of silence, she calmed down and said slowly, "Pan Xing, actually, even if someone broke through Pangaea's barrier, it wouldn't be considered a violation of the laws of Pangaea or the laws of heaven and earth, right? You're just afraid that this person is too strong and you can't control him. When the time comes, he will threaten your supreme position, right?" "Ha!" Hearing this, Pan Xing threw his head back and laughed. His black hair fluttered in the wind. His killing intent surged like a rainbow. He was like a demon king of destruction above the 9 heavens, insufferably arrogant. He raised his hands high, and his eyes shone brighter than the sun and moon. His face was filled with arrogance as he laughed domineeringly. "I am in charge of the laws of this plate realm. I can control the energies of the world in this plate realm. I am the sky of this plate realm. Even if an ant can jump around, how can it threaten me? Can a firefly compete with the bright moon? Ridiculous, ridiculous to the extreme." After saying the last word, Pan Xing waved his hands. The chi of heaven and earth in the sky gathered above him. Countless millions of meters long divine thunders turned into angry purple dragons and dashed towards him. The destructive pressure immediately covered the entire peak of Mount Pan. At this moment, Pan Xing seemed to have really become this sky, an existence that could not be surpassed, an existence that could only be looked up to. Sigh. Pan Xing let out a deep sigh and did not say anything else. She turned around and walked into her small wooden hut. Before she entered, she glanced in the direction of the planar battlefield, and a complicated and conflicted emotion flashed through her eyes. "Go!" Pan Xing waved his hand, and countless bolts of lightning quietly disappeared. The chi of heaven and earth also returned to normal. The strange thing was, not a single one of the hundreds of millions of experts in the planar battlefield had noticed it. Pan Xing smilingly looked down and leisurely said, kill as much as you want. I'm watching you from above. Don't you always like to say, Supreme God Emperor? Ha 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 ha. Your Majesty, we found an 8-clawed golden dragon sneaking in. What should we do? In the base of the immortal realm, Yi Qinghan suddenly received a message from the warriors patrolling below. Yi Qinghan exchanged a look with Zhu Yi in surprise and gave her an inquiring look. Zhu Yi's beautiful eyes rolled. She pondered for a moment and had an idea. She transmitted her voice. Let Gong Tian scare him away. Don't kill him. Yi Qinghan nodded and understood Zhu Yi's meaning. He had always trusted Zhu Yi's schemes, so he immediately sent a telepathic message to Gong Tian. Take 3 of your men and a small team of the strongest Yi clan army. Release your aura and pretend to be patrolling. Go scare that golden dragon away. Gong Tian happily accepted the order. His aura surged. He took Gong Tian, his men, and a team of the strongest Yi family army, all of whom were 7th-grade war gods, and swaggered down. The golden dragon playing? If I can make a move and Xiao He wakes up, your army will be annihilated. Yi Qinghan stood quietly at the top of the mountain as a bitter smile appeared on his face. He had great strength, but he could not do anything. This caused him to feel incomparably sullen. Whoosh! Gong Tian flew back after a short while. He had a grave expression on his face. He transmitted his voice from afar. Your Majesty, the Golden Dragon Plains army has appeared and is heading toward us. It seems like they're going to attack us. Yi Qinghan's eyes flashed coldly, and he shouted, How many peak experts are there? Gong Tian was startled and said awkwardly, I was in a hurry to send the message and did not get a clear look. From afar, there are at least hundreds of thousands of golden dragons. Yi Qinghan snorted coldly. Although his heart was burning with anxiety, he did not dare to show it. What he was worried about had finally happened. Now, he could only pray that there were not many experts left in the Golden Dragon Plain. With a solemn expression, he shouted, Pass down my order. All Yi family soldiers are to return to defense. Wind Moon Sovereign, control the restrictions. Listen to my command and prepare for battle. Return to defense. Get into formation. Prepare for battle. Countless commanders shouted. In an instant, all the Yi family soldiers moved. According to the formation that they had practiced, they formed into legions and stood on the mountain peak. They were equipped with blades and armor. There was no fear on their faces. Instead, they were extremely excited. Their aura was like a rainbow. Killing intent filled the air. The wind on the mountain peak stopped blowing at this moment. Swish! Less than an hour later, in the distant sky, within the white fog, many small golden dragons appeared. The ones in front all had 8 claws, and their cold eyes were filled with coldness. Slowly, more and more golden dragons appeared. 9 claws and 10 claws appeared. Their bodies also grew bigger. These golden dragons did not attack. Instead, they surrounded the mountain peaks of the immortal world and kept roaring and roaring. They circled in the air and stared at the immortal world martial artists on the mountain peak. Their fierce eyes looked like they wanted to swallow human flesh. Ayo! Dragon roars came from afar. In the fog, another group of golden dragons appeared. The ones at the front were all 11-clawed golden dragons. Their bodies were also hundreds of meters long. After the 11-clawed golden dragons, the 12-clawed golden dragons began to appear. There were more than 10 of them, all of them lined up in a row. Behind them, 7 or 8 14-clawed golden dragons appeared. After that, these 7 to 14 golden dragons separated and lined up. When 2 ghostly figures appeared from the dense fog, all the golden dragons instantly roared. Their roars shook the heavens, causing the hearts of all the Yi family soldiers to tremble. Are those the 9th-grade supreme martial artists of the Golden Dragon Clan? Yi Qinghan's pupils suddenly shrank. His divine sense immediately detected the 2 shadows. They were 2 half-dragonmen. Their lower bodies were that of a dragon, while their upper bodies were that of a human. They had 16 dragon wings on their backs. 2 half-dragon people, 1 male and 1 female. The male had a domineering aura. He looked like an emperor who ruled the world. He flew over proudly. The female golden dragon had an extremely beautiful face. Her chest was completely bare, revealing a group of golden hemispheres that trembled as she flew. Zhu Yi's expression turned serious. Her beautiful eyes flickered. She said in a low voice, Those who can transform into half-dragon are 9th-grade supreme martial artists. How did the Golden Dragon plane recover so quickly? In millions of years, it has produced 2 ninth-grade supreme martial artists, 7 or 8 upper-grade martial artists, and more than 10 ninth-grade experts. Emperor, hurry up and kill their leader. Otherwise, even if we win, the Yi family army will die. Ayo! The 2 ninth-grade supreme golden dragons had arrived. Without saying a word, the male draconian raised his head and let out a roar. A long spear suddenly appeared in his hand. His aura soared and enveloped the entire immortal world mountain range. He raised a spear and pointed it forward. He roared, "Come, citizens of the Golden Dragon Plain, attack. Tear apart the despicable humans of the immortal world and avenge our ancestors. I want everyone in the immortal world army to die without a complete corpse." Chapter 1344. Under the command of the demi-dragon, the Golden Dragon tribe rushed up the mountain from all directions. 7 to 8 14-clawed Golden Dragon people and more than 10 12-clawed Golden Dragon people led their respective teams and attacked the mountain like a swarm of locusts. "Who?" The million or so Golden Dragons roared in unison as they opened their mouths and shot out golden fireballs. Immediately, the sky was filled with golden fireballs, covering the heavens and earth. The fireballs contained terrifying energy and were incredibly fast, and the searing aura they gave off melted all of the white mist nearby, creating a grand scene that shook everyone's hearts. Yi Qinghan stood at the peak of the mountain expressionlessly. Facing such a terrifying attack, the million Yi family soldiers didn't panic at all. They didn't even move their bodies at all. Yi Qinghan calculated the distance, and a cold glow appeared in his eyes. He hollered, "Yi family army, unsheathe your blades and cover the entire area. Ice Queen attack." Along with Yi Qinghan's holler, the Yi family army, which was originally split into 10 square formations, all hollered in unison, suppressing the roars of the million golden dragons. After that, all of the Yi family army performed an incomparably uniform action. They took half a step back, lowered their waists, and dismounted from their horses. They drew their sabers with one hand, and in an instant, rays of cold light shot out from their sabers. Xiao! 1 million sabers were drawn out in an incomparably orderly manner, and then slashed forward in an incomparably orderly manner. Before the sabers fell, a crescent-shaped saber radiance that was several meters long whizzed out. It was colorful and extremely gorgeous, turning into 1 million spatial fragmented saber streams that whistled towards the sky full of fireballs in front of them. Space froze at this moment. Ice Queen's jade-like legs tapped the ground, and she turned into a cloud that floated into the air. Her beautiful body and face started to spin in the air. Along with her dancing, huge snowflakes fell from the sky. They were crystal clear and looked extremely beautiful. The scene seemed to have frozen at that moment. The sky full of golden fireballs and a million colorful blade energies were clashing against each other. At that moment, snowflakes fell from the sky. Over 1 million majestic golden dragons, 100 silent and imposing soldiers of the Yi family army, and a beautiful lady dancing in the sky. The scene was so beautiful that it was intoxicating. In the next second, the beautiful scene was shattered. Or rather, it became even more beautiful. The golden fireballs and the blade lights collided. The golden fireballs hit the blade lights, and the blade lights hit the fireballs. Countless fireworks bloomed in the sky. Under the illumination of the snowflakes, it was so beautiful that it made one's soul tremble. Buzz! However, before the fireworks could fully bloom, the snowflakes fell even more heavily. The blooming fireworks were like sparks in the sky that met a heavy downpour. There were no more golden fireballs in the sky, nor were there any murderous saber lights. There was only a sky full of snow and a beautiful woman who stubbornly continued to dance. All level 9 experts come out. The Yi family army stay where they are. Wind Moon Monarch, control the restriction and listen to my command. Gontian, hold up their level 9 experts. The rest of the level 9 experts, kill these low-level golden dragons. Ice Queen, attack indiscriminately in all directions. Fire. Yi Qinghan was still standing calmly on the summit of the mountain. His fiery red battle armor glistened brightly. His face, which seemed to have been carved by a knife, was filled with coldness. The 2-meter-long black saber was inserted into his back, quietly emitting a boundless killing intent. Swish! The Ice Queen in the sky danced even more fiercely. A pair of snow-white bare feet stepped on the void, like a little girl eating mushrooms on the snow. However, as her white sleeves fluttered, the sky no longer started to fall snowflakes. Instead, the sky was filled with falling ice, covering countless golden dragons. Zhu Yi didn't know why Yi Qinghan didn't take action when he was so powerful. However, since Yi Qinghan had given the order, she didn't hesitate. She tapped the ground with her feet, turned into a beautiful butterfly, and floated forward. Gongtian and the others didn't want to fight, especially Gongtian. He wanted to force Yi Qinghan to return the Fire of Soul at such a good opportunity. However, under Yi Qinghan's great emperor aura, he didn't dare to act rashly. He looked at each other, gritted his teeth, and shot toward the Golden Dragon army. Since he had chosen to fight, Gongtian didn't hold back anymore. The blood-red spear in his hand turned into thousands of spear shadows, shrouding the tens of thousands of golden dragons and several level 9 golden dragons. Ayo! The male golden dragon deity in the distance sent the level 9 experts under Yi Qinghan to fight. He roared angrily and pointed his spear at the female golden dragon deity beside him. Arale, go kill that level 9 supreme martial artist. The female golden dragon deity let out a long roar and swung her dragon tail. The 2 huge meatballs in front of her chest shook, and she turned into a bolt of lightning and shot toward Gongtian. Commander of the Immortal Realm, come and fight with this dragon deity. The golden dragon deity pointed his spear at Yi Qinghan, and the provocation in his eyes was obvious. Although Yi Qinghan didn't release his aura, the golden dragon deity could tell with one look that he was the commander of the Immortal Realm. This was because he could feel that Yi Qinghan had the same Emperor aura as him. Supreme Emperor Aura. Yi Qinghan slowly unsheathed the 2-meter-long Slaughter God blade. He lowered his head and caressed the Slaughter God blade, as though he was caressing his most beloved lover. He did not say anything and seemed to be considering if he should fight with the Golden Dragon God. Woo-woo. The battle between Gongtian and the others had already started. Gongtian's attacks were incomparably domineering. The spear in his hand was a supreme spiritual treasure. Before the 9th grade supreme dragon deity arrived, he had already swept away a bunch of low-grade golden dragons. He even killed 1 lower grade 9 golden dragon. Zhu Yi, Gongtian, and the other 3, as well as the Wind Moon Monarch, were incomparably honest. They didn't bother with the experts of the golden dragon race. They revolved their spatial powers and casually attacked, killing a bunch of low-grade golden dragons. The Ice Queen's attacks were especially domineering. Her ice spikes covered the sky, and they were all area of effect attacks. How could the golden dragons, who were as strong as god emperors, be compared to the Ice Queen's ice spikes? Instantly, the scene was extremely tragic. Countless golden dragons were like bugs that were sprayed with insecticide as they fell one by one. In just a single exchange, hundreds of thousands of low-grade golden dragons had died. As for Zhu Yi and the others, they rolled in the air and dodged. The massacre was still starting. Ayo, all citizens retreat. Despicable, despicable, shameless. All dragon gods, charge towards the mountain and kill the citizens of the divine world. At the start, the golden dragon god's attention was still focused on Yi Qinghan, who was caressing the slaughter god blade. He didn't expect so many of his citizens to be killed in just one exchange. He hurriedly roared and ordered the other 9th grade golden dragons to stop chasing and charge towards the mountain. He wanted to learn from Yi Qinghan and change the battlefield to the Divine World Army. That way, the Divine World sovereigns would have no choice but to retreat and fight with their own subordinates. When the battlefield changed, The low-grade Divine World martial artists would die one by one. Divine World Commander, this dragon god will tear you apart. After giving the order, the golden dragon god turned into a bolt of lightning and charged towards the mountain. His spear condensed a formless killing intent as he charged towards Yi Qinghan. All sovereigns, change your formation. Zhu Yi and the rest attack that cow. Gong Tian and the rest kill them all. After one round of attacks, retreat immediately. Before the golden dragon god finished shouting, Yi Qinghan had already secretly sent a voice transmission. Gong Tian's blood-refined spear swept out and forced the female dragon god to retreat. He then turned into a dragon and swept towards the 9th-grade dragon god beside him. As for Zhu Yi and the rest, they all locked their attacks on the female dragon god at the same time, forcing her to not attack Gong Tian. Chi! How sharp was Gong Tian's attack? Now that someone was holding back the 9th-grade dragon god, he could attack without restraint and easily lock down 3 9th-grade dragon gods. The strength of a 9th-grade dragon god coupled with the attack of a supreme spiritual treasure. After the golden dragon god gave the order, the 3 9th-grade dragon gods were at a loss and didn't know whether they should advance or retreat. In an instant, they were hit by the blood-refined spear, and their bodies exploded as they fell to the ground powerlessly. Chapter 1345. Everyone come back! The moment the golden dragon god moved, Yi Qinghan transmitted his voice again. Zhu Yi, Gong Tian, and the rest immediately retreated. When everyone retreated, the remaining grade 9 golden dragons also came to their senses and rushed up the mountain with the golden dragon god. At this time, Yi Qinghan also moved. He raised his head and slowly raised the slaughter god blade. An evil smile appeared on his face as he shouted, "Fools of the golden dragon race, you have been tricked. Wind Moon Monarch, attack!" Clatter, clatter! Supreme God Emperor, please bestow upon me supreme power. Activate the world extermination restriction and kill all the bastards in front of me. When Yi Qinghan shouted, Wind Moon Monarch, who was beside him, seemed to have a seizure. His body trembled as he shouted some strange words and jumped around. The golden dragon race was stunned. Then, Wind Moon Monarch's body trembled violently as if he was about to shoot. Dazzling rays of light burst forth from his body. Following that, the entire mountain peak lit up. Electric arcs flickered and countless furious dragons roared. A destructive pressure that was comparable to the explosion of several 9th-grade supreme martial artists instantly enveloped the entire mountain peak. The restrictions that Wind Moon Monarch had set up for a long time were all activated. God Extermination Restriction? Retreat! Retreat! The golden dragon god was scared half to death. Yi Qinghan's evil smile made him feel strange. Yi Qinghan's words also contained the heavenly demon voice. The golden dragon god's first thought was that he had been tricked. Then, Wind Moon Monarch's seizure happened again. He felt even worse. Finally, the restrictions that filled the sky were activated. The destructive aura really scared him. He quickly twisted his body and without any hesitation fled. Fools will always be fools. No wonder they were occupied by the divine world back then. Yi Qinghan smiled leisurely, but his face suddenly turned cold. He shouted at Gong Tian and the others, all grade 9 martial artists, attack that cow with all your strength. No, that female grade 9 supreme martial artist. Kill her for this great emperor. There was no need for Yi Qinghan to say anything. With such a good opportunity, how could they not seize it when they were all peak experts who had walked through mountains of blades and seas of blood? However, since Yi Qinghan had given the order, everyone found their target. In the blink of an eye, hundreds of icicles, 1,000-layered waves, and experts of the Water God clan locked onto the female golden dragon god. This was especially so for Gong Tian. His expression hardened as he unleashed the attack he had used on Yi Qinghan back then. The blood-refined spear left his hand and soundlessly tore through the air. The space of the planar battlefield was so stable, but he had actually managed to create multiple scar-like cracks in it. The female golden dragon god had just been attacked by Zhu Yi and the others, and even though she hadn't been injured, her blood was still churning and her mind was in turmoil. Now that he was being toyed with by these restrictions and the roar of the golden dragon god, his mind was in a state of panic. When she saw Zhu Yi and the others attack her, her heart turned cold. She used the power of chaos to protect her god crystal and head. At the same time, the 16 wings on her back started to flap. A ball of flames appeared around her body, turning into a flame armor that wrapped around her body. Ice Queen's attack was the first to arrive. Hundreds of icicles stabbed towards the red barrier, all of them attacking one point. Instantly, energy exploded and energy waves surged. However, it was obvious that Ice Queen's attack wasn't strong enough. It didn't break the armor and only caused some small cracks. The combined attacks of Zhu Yi and the 4 Water God clan members surged forward. Such a powerful energy instantly exploded, and the fiery red shield instantly burst apart. Half of the female golden dragon god's body was smashed into pieces. It was obvious that she was badly injured. Half of her giant meatball was left, and it swayed in the wind. Finally, the most terrifying attack arrived. A blood-red spear arrived silently, and its target was the god crystal of the female golden dragon god. Prung! A crisp sound rang out. A priceless primal chaos divine crystal, which was comparable to a sovereign spiritual treasure, turned into dust and splattered in all directions. The golden dragon goddess also fell powerlessly to the ground. Everyone's eyes froze at this moment. The golden dragon god in the distance, the lower 9th grade golden dragon who had just left the mountain, and the low-level golden dragons in the distance all stared blankly at the dragon god who had fallen powerlessly. They couldn't believe their eyes. Lost. All the golden dragons knew the outcome. In just an hour, not a single person from the god realm died. They had lost, completely lost. More than half of the 1,000,000 golden dragons had died. Half of the grade 9 golden dragons had died too. More importantly, the invincible dragon god Arale was lying on the ground. Half of her body was left. On the other hand, the strongest commander of the god realm hadn't even made a move yet. Retreat. The golden dragon god hollered in rage and dashed into the distance. He really wanted to charge over and fight Yi Qinghan. He knew that if he went back like this, his prestige in the golden dragon plane would be ruined. However, he was very clear that if he didn't retreat now, all his people would die here. As all the golden dragons fled frantically, their ancestors' words appeared in their minds. Unless absolutely necessary, don't start a war with the god realm. Otherwise, the golden dragon race would be completely annihilated. Victory! None of the god realm martial artists chased after them. This was because Yi Qinghan did not give the order. Everyone's gazes were locked on Yi Qinghan, who was on the mountain peak. They looked at him, caressing the slaughter god's saber and the sinister smile on his face. Everyone felt that this was ridiculous. They had only sent out a ray of saber light. The grade 9 martial artists had only sent out a few rounds of attacks, but in exchange, hundreds of thousands of giant corpses fell. This battle could be fought like this? The Dharch hadn't even made a move yet. Everyone looked at Yi Qinghan silently. Their souls trembled. The Dharch hadn't even made a move, but he had achieved such a result. If the Dharch had made a move, wouldn't all the gods and demons be annihilated? Retreat. Send out patrol teams to continue scouting. The rest of you, stay here and guard. One team from the Yi family army, go and clean up the battlefield. This Dharch is tired and will take a nap first. Yi Qinghan swung the 2-meter-long slaughter god saber elegantly in the air a few times before sheathing it behind his back. He waved his hand calmly and sent a voice transmission to Zhu Yi. The two of them disappeared from the mountain peak and entered the War Emperor Palace. Farewell, Dharch! Without anyone organizing them, all the Yi family army soldiers knelt down on one knee and shouted in unison. At this moment, Yi Qinghan had become the invincible god of war in their hearts. They firmly believed that as long as the Dharch was around, the god realm would be able to recover its ancient glory and sweep across the entire plate realm. Gong Tian and the others exchanged glances with complicated expressions. Their hearts were pounding. The more casual Yi Qinghan was, the more they felt that Yi Qinghan was really deep and indiscernible. The aura that he gave off naturally made them feel like they were worshipping him. Ice Queen's face flushed red. When she saw Zhu Yi and Yi Qinghan disappear together, her eyes were filled with embarrassment and envy. Great Emperor, you're so cool. Yi loves you so much. Yi can't take it anymore. Yi wants to make love to you. Yi is too excited. You were so cool just now. Yi's heart is just looking at you. The moment they entered the War Emperor Palace, Zhu Yi jumped up. Her strong legs clamped onto Yi Qinghan's waist, and she was about to rip apart Yi Qinghan's robe. Her face was filled with excitement, and she was as beautiful as a flower. She had always been proud of her intelligence. Today, Yi Qinghan had actually relied on his intelligence to win such a beautiful victory without even making a move. How could she, who was naturally dissolute, not have a go? Phew. Yi Qinghan smiled bitterly and sat down, allowing Zhu Yi to press on top of him. His forehead was covered in cold sweat, and his back was completely drenched. He felt powerless all over. Just now, actually, he had been pretending to be calm, but his heart was filled with extreme fear. If he could attack, he would have won a beautiful victory today. However, he didn't dare to attack even if he was beaten to death. They had 2 Grade 9 Supreme Martial Artists and so many Grade 9 Upper and Lower Grade 9 Martial Artists. If he wasn't careful, then he would be dead. Chapter 1346. Great Emperor, what's wrong? Zhu Yi noticed Yi Qinghan's strange behavior and quickly stopped what she was doing. She stuck to Yi Qinghan like a kitten and asked with concern. Yi Qinghan shook his head slightly and closed his eyes. He didn't say anything and calmed his emotions. Then, he stood up and carried Zhu Yi to the bed. Zhu Yi didn't ask much. She obediently stuck to his chest and smiled sweetly. Yi Qinghan sat on the bed and leaned against the wall. He patted her back and let Zhu Yi lie on his lap. Zhu Yi blushed. She thought Yi Qinghan wanted her to help him blow Xiao Nongyue. She knelt on the bed and raised her butt. She was about to lift his robe and search. Don't. Yi, come and lie on my lap. I'm not in the mood right now. Yi Qinghan smiled bitterly. He grabbed Zhu Yi's shoulder and let her lie on his lap. He stroked her hair and said after a moment of silence, Yi, do you know why the Divine Emperor wanted to exterminate the 10 primordial races? Zhu Yi's brows furrowed slightly. Her beautiful eyes looked around and said, although no one knows the specific reason, I guessed it from the scrolls left behind by my ancestors. The divine world was too powerful back then. It ruled a quarter of the Plate Realm and obtained at least 10 supreme spiritual treasures. Every time they went to the planar battlefield, they could easily sweep through a large group of people. There was no doubt that they would be the first in the planar battlefield. The battles in the planar battlefield were random. Every plane was filled with races from different planes. It was basically impossible for them to work together. Hence, if the primordial races kept participating in the planar battlefield, they might have been able to unify the entire Plate Realm. This was something that the higher-ups would never allow. Hence, the 10 primordial races were exterminated. The divine world was almost destroyed. Yi Qinghan nodded. Zhu Yi's guess was about the same as his. Actually, the beast god and the others must have guessed it too. As the manager of the Plate Realm, Pan Xing controlled the life and death of everyone in the Plate Realm. A few disobedient and powerful ants had appeared in his territory and tried to unify all the ants. How could he not raise his hand and slap those powerful ants to death? Yi Qinghan said with a grave expression, you also know that my strength is very strange. Not long ago, my strength changed again. Right now, I can easily kill more than 2 ordinary 9th grade sovereigns. The source of my attacks is different from the energy of this world. Hence, if I were to make a move at the foot of Mount Pan, that person would be able to detect it immediately. I reckon that the moment that person discovers my strange strength, he will immediately attack me and destroy the entire God realm. Do you understand why I didn't make a move just now? Yi Qinghan briefly told Zhu Yi about it, but he didn't tell her about the purple-robed woman's voice transmission or the cold boundary. After all, it was too shocking. Zhu frowned, and her eyes flickered. Although Yi Qinghan did not explain it clearly, with her intelligence, she could guess some things. She could also easily sense the domineering power of Yi Qinghan's cold power. Zhu Yi also felt that Yi Qinghan's words made sense. Moreover, there must be other reasons why Yi Qinghan was so sure. The Divine Emperor Supreme. That was a pressure on everyone's heart, an insurmountable mountain. Zhu Yi remembered the record of when the Divine Emperor Supreme killed Zhu Rong. One move, just one move. The strongest ninth-grade sovereign in the God realm, Great Emperor Zhu Rong, who had the protection of the fire god armor and the power of primal chaos, was smashed into pieces by the Divine Emperor Supreme with one move. Strictly speaking, Zhu Yi thought that they were not gods, but a group of powerful people who had changed their fate. And the Divine Emperor Supreme was a true god who reigned over billions of planes and countless lives. Could mortals fight against heavenly god martial artists? Yes, they could agree, but they would definitely die. Zhu Yi stretched out her soft hand and caressed Yi Qinghan's face. Her eyes were filled with affection as she consoled him. Darch, don't worry. Maybe things are not as bad as you think. Moreover, the Golden Dragon race will not attack again. Even if they do, we will not be afraid. There is still half a month left. At that time, we can retreat from the battlefield and return to the God realm. After that, we can nurture geniuses in the God realm and strengthen the God realm. Maybe in the next planar war, you will not need to fight personally. I hope so. Yi Qinghan forced a smile. Although the Golden Dragon race had been defeated, the throbbing in his heart was still there. He kept having a premonition that something would happen. He used his divine sense to check Xiaohe inside the slaughter god blade and found that he was still in a deep sleep. Yi Qinghan's heart sank even more. He used his divine sense to look inside the cold domain. The spatial whirlpool inside the cold domain was normal and extremely stable. This made Yi Qinghan feel slightly more at ease. Darch, don't think so much. Everything will be fine. Zhu Yi gently raised her hand and brushed past Yi Qinghan's tightly furrowed brows. Yi Qinghan's solemn expression made her heart ache. Everyone only saw this man's bright appearance. However, how many people could truly understand the misery in his heart? Not. Still not? That's impossible, right? Could it be that my senses are really wrong? At the peak of Mount Pan, Pan Xing looked down at the group of people fighting in the blood-red desert. His gaze swept across the ninth-grade supreme martial artists again and again. Based on their strength, attacks, and abilities, he judged whether they could break through the barrier of Pangaea. However, after so many days, there were already dozens of armies below and hundreds of ninth-grade supreme martial artists. Yet, he still did not discover anything. The battle below was extremely intense. The temptation of the two supreme spiritual treasures, the stimulation of Pan Xing's words, and the strange atmosphere in the dimensional battlefield all stimulated the blood in the hearts of countless experts. After entering the Gobi Desert, the thick stench of blood ignited the desire to kill in everyone's hearts. There were no tricks, no logic, no reason. There was only killing, a crazy killing. As long as they were not warriors of this dimension, they would kill them first. Beastmen, mantis men, alien monsters, metal beasts, demonic beasts, ghost monsters, countless of them. Water elemental energy, fire elemental energy, time elemental energy, light elemental energy, and destruction elemental energy collided in the air. Long sabers, silver swords, giant axes, thick sticks, and all kinds of weapons shone with a cold light that blinded people's eyes. Human heads, beast heads, broken limbs, scales, and flesh flew in the air. Blood had already formed a river. All kinds of energy lights were colorful. All kinds of floating divine crystals were even more gorgeous. The badges on the ground floated down like snowflakes. Along with the scarlet blood night, they floated and swayed in the desert. The blood-red desert had become a hell of azura. There are still some dimensions that did not participate in the battle. Pan Xing cast his gaze into the distance and saw countless more black dragons surging towards them. However, there were still a few dimensions that did not move. They were still stationed at their strongholds. However, Pan Xing checked and found that there were not many experts in those armies. Thinking that they did not dare to come and die, he felt relieved. When he looked to the left, Pan Xing raised his sword-like eyebrows again. He said with great surprise, "The Beastmen Dimension, 6 ninth-grade supreme martial artists, and 2 supreme spiritual treasures. There are so many ninth-grade and upper ninth-grade supreme martial artists. Why are they not participating in the battle? What are they doing? Why are they running so fast? What are they doing?" Chapter 1347. Hurry! Hurry! In a long canyon, countless beastmen were running wildly. There weren't many of them, only a few thousand, but all of them were above the venerable level. All the rank 9 beastmen had been mobilized. This time, the snake-headed beastman was prepared to destroy the divine realm in one fell swoop and seize the 3 paragon spiritual treasures of the divine realm. The snake-headed beastman was incomparably furious. His original plan was to bring all his elites and leave quietly and quickly. He even deliberately took a detour at other plane strongholds, not wanting to alarm the powerhouses of other planes along the way. He didn't expect that Pan Xing's words would cause them to encounter a plane legion that was preparing to rush to the Gobi Desert as soon as they left the stronghold. In the plane battlefield, there was no reason to see or explain. Once they encountered a foreign plane legion, they would kill it first. Moreover, under the stimulation of Pan Xing's words, he could suppress the killing intent in his heart, but his subordinates couldn't. Hence, a chaotic battle began, and they were forced to participate. After fighting for 3 days and 3 nights, they finally killed all the powerhouses of the Plane Legion, and more than half of the Legion was destroyed. However, only 3,000 of the 6,000 junior commanders were left, and more than 10 rank 9 and upper rank 9 commanders were killed. Fortunately, the rank 9 great commanders were not killed. Otherwise, the snake-headed beastman would be so angry that he would vomit blood. Although Pan Xing had opened 2 paragon spiritual treasures, the snake-headed beastman didn't change his original intention. Yi Qinghan had killed 4 of their rank 9 supreme martial artists, as well as several rank 9 and upper rank 9 commanders, greatly damaging their legion strength. Originally, he had the confidence to take first place, but now he wasn't so confident. At this moment, he didn't want to participate in the chaotic battle. Most importantly, there were 3 ready-made paragon spiritual treasures in the divine realm waiting for him to take them. He wasn't a fool. Although Pan Xing's sudden order caused them to encounter a strong enemy as soon as they left the stronghold, their journey was smooth afterward. Those planes had either gone to the Gobi Desert a long time ago, or they were very weak planes that were guarding and not coming out. In half a month, the Beastman had crossed more than half of the distance. They would reach the divine realm in another 5 to 6 days. The snake-headed Beastman became even more anxious, and it kept urging him. It was just that there were thousands of Beastman junior commanders, and there were restrictions everywhere. They couldn't go fast even if they wanted to. The terrain of this place was a canyon, and there were even more restrictions. Although they could easily sense it, those junior commanders couldn't. They were rank 9 powerhouses. They could only stand by the side of the restriction and let the juniors take the lead. After all, if they were trapped or teleported, these little commanders would definitely die. Phew, we're finally out of this damn canyon. He had to reach the divine world within 3 days. Fox Lady, keep an eye on that old man. He's going to be very useful. After the commanders charged through the canyon, the snake-headed orc became spirited and roared at Foxy in the distance. His body turned into an afterimage as he flew out of the canyon. Don't worry, this old fellow is staying well in my spatial divine tool. Foxy smiled coquettishly. She twisted her charming body and ran forward. Out of the canyon, it was a flat stretch of land. There were fewer restrictions, too. The Beastman army was overjoyed and started running at full speed. Countless Beastman commanders' eyes glowed red. It was as if they could see martial artists from the divine world writhing and trembling under their butcher knives. Report, Your Majesty. There's a swamp ahead. There are countless restrictions in it. Dozens of our people are trapped inside. They don't dare to go forward. After running for half a day, a barehead great commander hurried toward them. His bare face was full of worry and anxiety. What? The snake-headed orc was furious. They were so close to the divine world, and now there was a damned swamp. If they were entangled in this swamp for half a month, their cooked duck would fly away. The snake-headed orc and Foxy were originally in the middle of the army. At this moment, they hurried toward the front camp. After running for tens of thousands of li, they saw a vast, endless swamp in front of them. It was like a natural moat in front of the army, impossible to cross. Have you checked the left and right? Can't we go around it? The snake-headed orc roared angrily. This kind of swamp was what he was most afraid of. The white fog here was thicker and visibility was lower. There would definitely be more restrictions, so they might be able to cross it easily. However, for these several thousand small commanders to cross it, it would take at least half a month. If they waited for half a month, the Divine World Army would have already withdrawn from the battle and teleported to Mount Pan. Your Majesty, Leopard 3 and Leopard 4 have already gone to investigate. However, they have already sent back a message. It is clear that this swamp is incomparably vast. The Vanguard General shook his huge head and said helplessly. The snake-headed orc snorted angrily. His body turned into an afterimage as he charged into the swamp. He spread out his divine sense with all his might. After flying a few rounds in the swamp, he flew back angrily. He cursed from afar, "Foxy, our army will not be able to cross this damned place without 10 days. The Vanguard General scratched his head and said anxiously, Your Majesty, what should we do? Leopard 3 and Leopard 4 haven't returned after so long. It is clear that this damned place is very difficult to cross. Should we let the army advance slowly first? Don't be anxious. Wait for Leopard 3 and Leopard 4 to return first." The snake-headed orc's blood-red eyes scanned the surroundings viciously as he said in a low voice. Foxy's pair of foxy eyes also turned. She nodded and said, "Your Majesty is right. Let's wait first." After half a day, the two leopard heads finally returned. Their faces were gloomy. It was clear that it would be very difficult to go around the swamp, or that they would need to spend more time. "Your Majesty, it will be very difficult to go around it." As expected, the two leopard heads' answers were the same. More than 100 rank, 9 half-beast commanders all looked at the snake-headed orc, waiting for his decision. The snake-headed orc's blood-red eyes turned, and he ordered, "Foxy, bring 50 commanders and rush to the Divine World Stronghold as quickly as possible. Remember, if you are not confident, delay them first. As long as you can delay them until we arrive, I will remember your great merit." Foxy seemed to have expected that the snake-headed orc would give such an order. She smiled faintly and selected 48 rank 9 commanders and 2 rank 9 supreme martial artists to fly into the swamp. These were all peak powerhouses. They were very fast, and their divine senses were very strong. They could easily detect restrictions. Their flying speed was frightening. In the blink of an eye, they disappeared into the white fog ahead. "Everyone move out. The commanders will scout the way. The rest of the junior commanders will follow your commanders. Be careful. Don't blame others if you die." The snake-headed orc let out a deep sigh and ordered. Looking at the thousands of junior commanders, he somewhat regretted bringing them along. However, he was also worried about leaving them at the stronghold. It did not matter if those low-level half-beastmen died. They were the future hope of the half-beastmen. He looked at the thousands of half-beastmen slowly flying forward under the leadership of the remaining rank 9 commanders. He sighed helplessly. His blood-red eyes looked at the thick fog in the distance. He said with incomparable resentment, "Foxy, you must delay them. When our army arrives, the Divine World Legion will be completely annihilated." Chapter 1348. Alas, at the summit of Pan Mountain, a faint sigh came from a small wooden hut on the left. The wooden hut looked very small and simple from the outside, but it was a completely different world inside. Inside this small wooden hut was a beautiful palace. The palace was made of white jade stone, and there was not a single seam in it. The interior of the palace was not very luxurious. Instead, it was extremely elegant, filled with small purple ornaments, making the entire palace look very beautiful. She sat in a small hall, drinking a cup of purple tea. Her breathtakingly beautiful face was frowning slightly, making one's heart ache. Indeed, She's beauty could make any woman in the world jealous and any man in the world moved. However, the numb aura that naturally flowed out of her body weakened her charm somewhat. Pan Huang said that the existence of any life form in this world is reasonable. The fall of any life form is preordained by the heavens. That young man comprehended the unyielding Tao of the three prime Taos, and his strength is so strange. It looks like he might be the one to break through Pan Realm's barrier. However, so what if he broke through the barrier? His existence is reasonable, the cycle of life. Although his soul came from another plane, it is also normal. He should not have been killed by Pan Xing had already done something wrong in the past. He couldn't let him do it again. How many years has it been since a genius comprehended the prime Tao appeared? Shi muttered to herself as she held the tea. She frowned at one moment, then shook her head the next. Her beautiful eyes showed a conflicted expression. Alas, Pan Huang has not appeared for several epochs. Otherwise, he would have been the one to decide. Pan Huang, what should Shi do? Should I save that young man? However, I am in charge of the cycle of life. Enforcing the law is not under my jurisdiction. Will you blame Shi when the time comes? Shi's pleasant voice continued to ring out, echoing in the palace. Finally, it turned into a heavy sigh. After a long time, the door of a small wooden hut at the summit of Pan Mountain opened, and a beautiful woman in purple walked out. She ignored Pan Xing, who stood proudly at the summit, and walked to the edge of the cliff alone. Then, she cast her deep and distant gaze into the distance. The wind blew her black hair, blinding her eyes. A stronghold in the divine world. This is the stronghold in the divine world that His Majesty spoke of. This is the mountain. From the left side of the base, in the immortal world, 51 figures flew over soundlessly. All of them had human bodies and beast heads, and their faces were filled with excitement and killing intent. However, under Foxy's orders, all the half-beastmen retracted their auras and quietly advanced. Foxy's vision was the strongest. She could see a steep mountain peak from afar. It was exactly the same as the stronghold in the heavenly realm that the snake-headed orc had created. Fox Lady, what do we do now? The bare-headed great commander of the half-beast army had followed them this time and asked in a muffled voice. Everyone, stay where you are. I'll go and take a look. Foxy waved her hand. She turned into a willow catkin and floated forward. Retracting his aura, he stealthily snuck toward the base in the immortal realm like a ghost. A million low-level martial artists, 1 lower 9th grade, and 5 upper 9th grade. Why was there only 1 9th grade supreme martial artist? Could it be that His Majesty's information was wrong? Or is that 9th grade supreme martial artist dead? Foxy was shocked as soon as she probed. However, as soon as she was shocked, Gong Tian, who was sitting cross-legged on the peak of the mountain, reacted immediately. His gaze was sharp as a knife as he shouted, "Enemies!" Swoosh! Gong Tian roared. All the 9th grade martial artists' divine senses swept around and became alert. The Yi family army was filled with murderous intent. Countless scouting squads ran down the mountain and started investigating. We've been discovered? So, what if we've been discovered? 1 9th grade supreme martial artist and 5 upper 9th grade martial artists? We have 3 9th grade supreme martial artist commanders on our side. The 3 of us are enough to destroy you all. Foxy was shocked. Then, her aura surged. She stopped hiding and let out a long roar. The 59th grade half-beast commanders in the distance responded immediately. Then, they let out a long roar. A brutal and violent aura shot up into the sky, enveloping all the space nearby. They quickly surrounded the stronghold in the immortal world. These are the Beastmen powerhouses who killed the Beast God. Why are there so many 9th grade martial artists? There are even 3 9th grade supreme martial artists. Moon breeze, report to the emperor immediately. The Ice Queen saw a woman with a fox's head and a human's body walk out from the fog. Then, countless tall and strong half-beastmen walked out from the fog. Each of them had a terrifying aura. Instantly, her snow-white face turned red as she shouted. Gong Tian and the rest, as well as all of the Yi family army, also saw the 51 experts below. 51 half-beastmen felt like 51 ancient beasts. It made the faces of the Yi family army and the ninth-grade martial artists turn as white as snow. Kill. Tear everyone on the mountain peak apart. Foxy had a charming smile on her face, but her eyes were filled with killing intent. She waved her furry hand, and 50 beastmen with auras comparable to primordial beasts flew towards the mountain peak, their bodies covered in black, destructive power. They had ferocious expressions on their faces. Emperor, Emperor. Although the Wind Moon sovereigns were so frightened that their souls were trembling, when they heard the Ice Queen's words, they paused for a moment before coming back to their senses. They gathered spatial energy in their hands and pushed towards the mountain peak. The layers of space started to tremble. Yi Qinghan and Zhu Yi's bodies appeared in the air. Emperor, when Yi Qinghan, who was carrying a 2-meter-long slaughter god blade on his back, appeared in the air, everyone's morale was lifted. Their solemn expressions turned into joy. The 1 million Yi family soldiers and all the sovereigns stared at the fiery red silhouette and his chiseled face. Their hearts surged with the conviction that they would definitely win. With the emperor around, no matter how many enemies there are, they won't be able to withstand a single blow. The emperor will definitely lead us to tear the enemies in front of us apart. Such a sentence appeared in everyone's mind. The originally low morale instantly rose. The morale on the mountain peak surged, and killing intent filled the air. Motherf asterisk Kerr. Yi Qinghan's eyes were like lightning as he stood proudly in the air with an indifferent expression. He indifferently looked at the 50-peak half-beastman powerhouses that were madly rushing towards him. Although he looked calm on the surface, his heart was filled with bitterness. What he was worried about had happened. The warning in his heart wasn't about the experts from the Golden Dragon dimension, but the Beastmen dimension. Fight or not fight? Yi Qinghan held the slaughter god blade tightly as his mind started to work. If he didn't fight, everyone would die, including him. If he fought, he might have a chance of survival. However, if he was discovered by Pan Xing, he would still die. Not only the people here, but the entire god world would probably die. Yi Qinghan's gaze suddenly rose as he gazed at Mount Pan in the distance. His eyes were filled with pain as a drop of cold sweat dripped down his forehead. At the peak of Pan Shan, Pan Xing was indeed watching a good show. At this moment, he was also paying attention to the Beastmen dimension. His lips curled into a mocking smile as he looked over with interest. These Beastmen are indeed here to annihilate a planar legion. They are actually from the god world? Ha! The show is starting. Chapter 1349. Pan Xing still had a deep memory of the divine world. It wasn't just because he had killed most of the peak experts in the divine world, nor was it because the divine world had taken supreme spiritual treasures from him many times. It was because of the 10 ancient clans. In the countless planar wars, he had stood at the peak of Mount Pan and looked down at the 10 ancient races easily slaughtering the experts of other planes. How could he not remember it deeply? Originally, he didn't care about the divine world. He didn't think that the divine world could recover in a few million years. However, one of the most powerful planes, the Beastmen plane, didn't participate in the war. Instead, they secretly attacked the divine world. This made him, who was originally watching the boring battle below, suddenly become interested. Oh no! She wasn't looking in the direction of the divine realm. Instead, she was using a special technique to observe the stronghold of the divine realm. When she sensed the current situation of the divine realm and Pan Xing's gaze, her heart sank. Her eyes, which were as beautiful as the stars in the sky, were suddenly covered with a layer of dark light. In such a situation, could that young man who had comprehended the supremacy Tao not make a move? If he didn't make a move, he would definitely die. If he made a move, Pan Xing would definitely die. Was it a situation of certain death for the soldiers to force him to abdicate? Pan, she didn't know. She didn't know that her heart, which hadn't wavered for a few eras, was now hanging by a thread because of a young man. She also didn't know that her numb and heavy body suddenly released a vigorous life force. At this moment, she was so beautiful that no one dared to look at her directly. The nine heavens goddess seemed to be descending to the mortal world, to fight or not to fight. Yi Qinghan, who was below, still looked calm. His body was like a sharp sword, standing straight and proud. He was like a 1,000-year-old pine tree that would never fall. However, his fingers that were holding the slaughter god blade tightly, as well as his green and white fingers, betrayed the urgency in his heart. Yi family army, retreat. Ice Queen, suppress the area. All level 9 experts, attack with arrows. Wind Moon Monarch, control the restriction. Gong Tian, attack with all your strength. Target, the bareheaded man at the front. Before Yi Qinghan could move, Zhu Yi, who was beside him, let out a long whistle and directly gave the order on behalf of Yi Qinghan. She looked deeply into Yi Qinghan's eyes, and with a tap of her foot, she transformed into a streak of light that shot off into the distance. As she flew through the air, she looked back at Yi Qinghan and smiled sweetly. Your Majesty, you absolutely, positively must not make a move. Just use your soul to assist us in our attacks. If the situation doesn't look good, you should flee for your life. Remember, as long as you're alive, the god world will not be defeated. There's still hope. Yi Qinghan briefly explained the situation to Zhu Yi. Of course, Zhu Yi knew Yi Qinghan's internal struggle at the moment. She also knew that he couldn't fight. Therefore, the light in her eyes was incomparably resolute, the light of certain death. Kill. When everyone saw Zhu Yi give the order, they thought that it was Yi Qinghan who gave the order. They thought that Yi Qinghan was ready to make a move. Although they were nervous, they didn't hesitate at all. With a roar, they were like countless ferocious tigers descending the mountain, and all of them attacked. The Ice Queen tapped her foot on the ground, and her graceful body spun upwards, transforming into a blooming snow lotus. She started to dance in the air alone. As she danced, the temperature in the air instantly dropped, and snowflakes started to cover the entire mountain. Dragon battles the 4 fields. In the face of a life and death crisis, Gong Tian didn't dare to hide her strength at all. Her body transformed into a swimming dragon and shot towards the bear man at the front. She revolved her blood-refined spear with all her might and pierced through the air like a specter. The 4 people from the water god raced behind her, and Zhu Yi also attacked with all their might, forming an arrow formation. They only had one target, the bear man at the front, a grade 9 supreme martial artist. Soul Illusion. After being shouted at by Zhu Yi, Yi Qinghan came to his senses, and his hand that was holding the slaughter god blade loosened a little. He stabbed the slaughter god blade into the ground, and a demonic light lit up in his eyes. He instantly released the soul illusion, enveloping the 50 grade 9 experts in front of him. His train of thought had almost reached a dead end. After the might of his power of cold had increased by 2 times, he had always wanted to use the power of cold to easily kill the enemy's 9th grade supreme martial artists. However, he had forgotten that he still had a heaven-defying attack, soul attack. The lady in purple said that he couldn't use his strange attack in the dimension battlefield. He subconsciously thought that he couldn't use it in the dimension battlefield. Now, after Zhu Yi's shout, he finally came to his senses. Soul attack was very common. Even though his soul had reached the great perfection realm, it was still considered a normal attack. Even if Pan Xing discovered it, it would be fine. Furthermore, soul attack was silent and not as powerful as the cold energy. Soul destruction. At this moment, Yi Qinghan seemed to have come alive. His eyes were like lightning, and after releasing the soul illusion, he immediately used the soul destruction attack on the bear man at the front. A grade 9 supreme martial artist had a great perfection realm soul. How powerful was the ancient soul secret technique released? At this moment, the experts from the Beastman dimension could feel it the most. 51 Grade 9 Beastmen experts, except for the 3 Grade 9 Supreme Martial Artists. All the other Beastmen commanders fell into the soul illusion. They suddenly realized that the mountain in front of them had disappeared, their teammates had disappeared, and even Pan Xing in the distance had disappeared. In this world, he was the only one left. When Yi Qinghan's soul strength reached the upper grade 9, he could make all the lower grade 9 martial artists fall into the illusion. It was a vast expanse of white in front of them, and their visibility was less than 100 meters. When he fought with the Heavenly Fox Woman, his soul broke through the last step and reached the great perfection realm of grade 9 Supreme Martial Artist. At this moment, the power of the soul illusion was so strong that even the upper grade 9 martial artists fell into the illusion, not to mention the lower grade 9 martial artists. Moreover, they fell into the illusion completely and couldn't detect the situation around them at all. A strange scene appeared in the scene. The Beastmen commanders, who were originally like ancient fierce beasts, suddenly retracted their auras. Their bodies, which were moving forward at high speed, all stopped in the air, and a look of horror appeared on their faces. One of the Beastmen commanders, out of fear, actually began to release attacks in all directions randomly. At this moment, the sky was no longer falling snow, but icicles. The 48 Beastmen commanders were immediately enveloped by the icicles, and they were scared half to death. Their nerves tensed up. Most importantly, they were already very close to each other. At this moment, when one of the Beastmen commanders began to release attacks randomly, the commanders next to him who were attacked immediately responded. In an instant, it caused a chain reaction. All the Beastmen commanders began to attack randomly in the air in fear. Blood refining God, Gong Tian, and the others didn't care about the Beastmen commanders at all. 6 pairs of eyes were fixed on the bare-headed man in front of them. 1,000-layer waves, water pillars, water arrows, and a blood-refined spear that caused cracks to appear in the air, smashed towards the bare-headed man with an unstoppable force. Chapter 1350. The leader of the bare-headed man's mind was not complicated. His favorite fighting style was to use brute force to determine the outcome of a head-on battle. That was why he didn't place any extra defenses on his body. Although everyone's attacks were ferocious, especially the aura coming from the blood-refined spear, which made his soul palpitate, he wasn't afraid at all. Instead, he was extremely excited. 2 balls of black destructive energy condensed on his fists, and black streams of energy flowed around his body, forming a strange armor. The flow of black energy around his fists was also extremely strange, or perhaps it could be said that it was incomparably twisted. It was a dazzling sight, and the space around his fists was distorted. Ayo! Seeing that everyone's attacks were about to reach him, the bare-headed man raised his head and roared. His body suddenly enlarged, becoming hundreds of meters tall. His fists also became several meters wide. The 1,000-layer wave was the first to attack. The vast aura covered the sky and the earth, like a tsunami, covering the bare-headed man. The bare-headed man was not afraid at all. He punched with his left hand. The black air currents made the space tremble. In an instant, the 1,000-layer wave flowed backward and then collapsed. It did not even touch the bare-headed man's skin. Water pillars, water arrows, water ripples, and water bombs came one after another. The sky was full of attacks, forming an arrowhead shape, all shooting at the bare-headed man. Under the attacks of the 4 water gods, the power of the water element was displayed incisively and unusually ferocious. The bare-headed man revealed a cruel smile. His hands danced, and the black air currents twisted in an awkward trajectory. Finally, it formed a disc in front of him, blocking all the attacks. Bang! The attacks of the 4 upper 9th level water gods swarmed over. The powerful energy that could flatten a tall mountain only made the disc tremble slightly, and a few cracks appeared. The bare-headed man, a pinnacle expert, had the strength of a 9th level supreme martial artist. Swish! The blood-refined spear came late, not because Gong Tian's attack speed was not fast enough, but because he deliberately controlled it and attacked last. The previous attacks were only used to exhaust the bare-headed man's destructive power and to keep him busy defending, so he could not use his full strength to deal with the strongest attack. But looking at the bare-headed man's ferocious eyes and the mocking expression on his furry face, Zhu Yi and the others knew that their attacks only scratched an itch for the bare-headed man. It did not affect him at all. Go! Gong Tian's gaze was like that of a ferocious ghost. He floated in the air, his hands dancing in the air as he controlled the blood-refined spear with all his might. He didn't understand why Yi Qinghan was still standing in his original position, but he was very clear that he had to kill this bare-headed man. Otherwise, everyone here would die today. Ayo! When the bare-headed man saw the blood-refined spear coming at him, not only did he not show the slightest bit of fear, but a fanatical fighting spirit appeared in his ferocious eyes. His body, which was hundreds of meters tall, shot out endless black light. It was as if a demonic god had descended from the heavens, and no one dared to look at him directly. He raised his head and roared furiously. His hands danced like windmills, forming black balls of air in front of him. They formed many discs, stacking on top of each other. Clearly, he wanted to use the violent, destructive power to stop the spear. Xiao! The blood-refined spear carried Gong Tian's greatest strength as it charged forward with an earth-shattering momentum. In the blink of an eye, it stabbed into the black disc. Boom! Cracks had already appeared on the first layer of the disc, and with a single touch, it instantly crumbled. The speed of the blood-refined spear did not slow down and continued to stab forward at lightning speed. The second layer, break. The third layer, break. The fourth layer, the fifth layer, break, break, break. Good. Satisfying. The bare-headed man laughed heartily. He did not panic when he saw 4 of the 5 layers of the disc that he had just formed break in the blink of an eye. His hands changed from fists to palms, then palms to claws. He made an awkward pose in front of his chest and twisted rapidly. The black light on his body shone brightly again. The last layer of the disc in front of him began to spin wildly. Oh no! Gong Tian's eyes were bloodshot as he stared at the blood-refined spear in front of him. His entire body's consciousness was locked onto the spearhead. When the blood-refined spear stabbed into the last layer of the disc, Gong Tian's heart suddenly sank. He felt as if the spear had stabbed into a quagmire, and its speed suddenly decreased. Even if he forcefully broke through, he did not know if he could break through, let alone injure the bare-headed man. No! Die! Gong Tian roared crazily. At this moment, what could he do? He could only use all his strength to seek this one merit. Therefore, he madly spat out a mouthful of blood and burned his divine power to break through. The blood-refined spear shook and sped up, piercing through the last layer of the disc with great difficulty. Gong Tian's consciousness locked onto the spearhead and followed it. However, he saw the bare-headed man's mocking expression. He saw the bare-headed man's hands moving rapidly, forming a smaller black disc that blocked the path of the blood-refined spear. God damn it, all my previous efforts have been for nothing. Gong Tian shook his head helplessly. The momentum of the blood-refined spear had been completely dispersed. It could not break through the disc, much less cause any harm to the bare-headed man. He licked the blood at the corner of his mouth. He felt a wave of bitterness. He was ready to give up. Just as he was about to withdraw the blood-refined spear and declare that everyone's attack had failed, he suddenly discovered something strange. Suddenly, he noticed something strange. The bare-headed man's body suddenly trembled. Then he clutched his head in agony and roared in the air. The disc formed by the power of destruction in front of him quietly disintegrated. Die. Gong Tian would grasp such a good opportunity even if he was an idiot. He used all his remaining strength and spat out another mouthful of blood. He madly controlled the blood-refined spear to accelerate and stab at the bare-headed man's abdomen. Bang! The sound of a watermelon shattering could be heard. A thick power of destruction filled the air. The blood-refined spear easily pierced through the bare-headed man's majestic body. The bare-headed man roared in pain. Its eyes were the size of a human head, and it slowly fell down in disbelief. A spatial ring slowly floated into the air. This, Gong Tian blinked blankly. He did not understand what was happening. Why did the bareheaded man suddenly give up resisting and let him assassinate him? The power of chaos outside the divine crystal also did not resist. However, when he saw the group of half-beast commanders in front of him killing each other crazily, the look of confusion in his eyes became even more intense. What was happening? Gong Tian withdrew the blood-refined spear and looked at the Water God clan and Zhu Yi behind him. He discovered that all of them were staring at a fiery red figure on the mountain peak. On the mountain peak, the fiery red figure still stood proudly. There were no signs of divine power or spatial power gathering on his body. His face was calm and indifferent. However, at this moment, two rays of light that were comparable to the demonic sun lit up in his eyes. No one dared to look at him directly, and they had the urge to worship him. It's him? What kind of demonic technique is this? Are soul skills so powerful? His strength has already reached such a terrifying level. He can kill people without even moving. A deep sense of powerlessness and fear surged in Gong Tian's heart. Not just him. All the experts of the Water God clan felt a chill run from the top of their heads to the bottom of their feet as they gazed at the fiery red figure. Their bodies were icy cold, and they no longer dared to have the thought of becoming enemies with him. It was too late, but it happened too quickly. Actually, all of this happened in a few blinks of an eye. The Ice Queen was still dancing in the sky. She was breathtakingly beautiful, but the situation on the battlefield had changed in an instant. The 9th grade Supreme, bareheaded man died in battle. Other than the remaining two 9th grade Supreme martial artists, all the half-beast commanders fell into a chaotic battle. At this moment, there were already more than 10 lower 9th grade beastmen who had fallen in the chaotic battle. Stop. Just at this moment, a sharp cry rang out from the beastman realm's side. A woman with a fox head turned into a blur that shot to the front of the beastman realm's army. She waved her hand, and a withered old man appeared in her hand. Fox Maiden's face was as cold as frost. She held the beast god's head in one hand with the power of destruction. Her gaze was like lightning as she stared straight at Yi Qinghan. She shouted, "Emperor Han Yi, is it? If you don't stop, don't blame me for being merciless. I'll turn your ancestors' bones to dust." Chapter 1351. Soul Spirit Attack? Such a powerful soul spirit attack. A peerless genius had appeared in the divine world. This person doesn't have any divine power? He has two paragon spiritual treasures. What a freak. At the peak of Mount Pan, Pan Xing watched the battle below with interest. Initially, he thought that the divine world would definitely lose. He didn't expect that one person would turn the situation around. Furthermore, this person was a rarely seen great perfection soul spirit expert. However, Pan Xing didn't mind. In the Pan realm, many dimensions had experts who specialized in cultivating the soul spirit. There were many great perfection soul spirit experts, so it was normal. What he was concerned about was the attacks from Gong Tian, the Water God tribe, and Zhu Yi. Although Zhu Yi, Gong Tian, and the rest had their divine power attributes changed under Yi Qinghan's ghost transformation, Pan Xing still felt that their attacks were familiar. Fortunately, the strongest attack from Gong Tian was a technique from the blood-refined spear. As for Zhu Yi and the rest, who were above grade 9, Pan Xing directly filtered them out. Pan Xi quietly observed the battlefield and Pan Xing. She realized that Yi Qinghan didn't even use his cold power, but he still managed to escape from certain death. She also realized that Pan Xing didn't discover anything. She was slightly relieved, and her face revealed a hint of joy. She was like a little girl who didn't know the ways of the world. The faint smile on her face caused her aura to subconsciously change. However, in the next second, her eyebrows furrowed slightly. The situation below changed again. "Old ancestor," Yi Qinghan exclaimed, and his face lit up. The demonic light in his eyes immediately disappeared, but he didn't remove the soul spirit illusion immediately. He raised the Slaughter God blade with one hand and pointed the blade at Fox Lady. His killing intent soared as he said angrily, "You dare to touch a single hair on his head? I swear that I will destroy your beastmen dimension." SS. Fox Lady replied to Yi Ching Han by grabbing the beast god's hand with one hand. She suddenly pulled and tore one of the beast god's hands out. Immediately, blood spurted out. The beast god was originally in a daze, but now he cried out in pain. His eyes were still in a daze. Foxy had a sinister smile on her face. She raised the beast god's arm up high and looked at Yi Ching Han as she said, "Aren't you going to withdraw your soul skill?" Yi Ching Han smiled, revealing a trace of ferociousness. However, he immediately withdrew his soul illusion and restrained his murderous aura. Those who were familiar with Yi Ching Han knew that Yi Ching Han's anger had reached its limit. He quietly stepped back and grabbed Yi Ching Han's hand, signaling him not to act rashly. "Ah, damn it! Which bastard attacked me just now? Nyoshur-san, you attacked me just now. I want to kill him." "Zhulu, I'll *CK you up. Why did you attack me?" As soon as Yi Ching Han's soul illusion disappeared, the half-beast commanders immediately discovered that the people attacking them were actually their own people. They immediately flew into a rage and cursed. "All of you, shut up. Step back. I'll tear anyone who dares to say anything else." Foxy's face was cold. Her left hand was still holding onto the beast god's arm. Blood flowed down and dyed half of her body red. Combined with her bone-chilling murderous aura, she looked even more ferocious and terrifying. All the half-beast commanders retreated, leaving only Foxy and a half-beast commander with a Qilin head in the air. Foxy was incomparably furious. Today, her wrong decision had caused the deaths of more than 10 commanders of the Beastmen plane, including a 9th-grade Supreme Martial Artist commander. She thought of what the snake-headed half-beast man had said before he left and his methods. She couldn't help but shudder. She rolled her eyes a few times, and the cold air around her became even colder. "Emperor Han Yi, hand over the 3 supreme spiritual treasures, and I will release him immediately. Otherwise, you can only watch as your ancestor is torn to pieces by me in front of you." Yi Ching Han's body trembled. Before he could speak, Zhu Yi, who was beside him, gripped his hand tightly. Then she smiled and said, "Haha, Vixen, do you think that's possible? We'll hand over the Paragon's spiritual treasures and wait to be killed by you? Do you think we'll let the billions of people in the divine world die for one person? Do it. Let's see how many of you can escape after we kill the beast god." "Oh, is that so? Then I'll have to do it." Foxy narrowed her eyes and shot out 2 rays of cold light. Her murderous aura burst forth, and she was about to attack. Yi Ching Han closed his eyes, and his body trembled violently. His heart was in extreme pain. Finally, he opened his eyes and waved the slaughter god blade. He shouted, "Everyone, get ready. Kill everyone in the half-beast dimension and take revenge for the beast god." Although family was important, the lives of billions of people in the divine world were even more important. The beast god only had 1 life, but there were more than 1,000,000 lives here. Swish! Gong Tian and the others immediately circulated their divine power and condensed spatial power. Their murderous aura filled the air. They were just waiting for Foxy to kill the beast god. Then, with the help of Yi Ching Han's soul skills, they would kill everyone. Foxy's hand, which was condensing the power of destruction, stopped in midair. She smiled and said, "Why not? We can exchange one of the treasures." When 2 sides met on a narrow path, the courageous one would win. When 2 sides fought, one side compromised and the other side's morale fell. Zhu Yi was extremely intelligent. Of course, she saw through this immediately. How could she not seize this opportunity? She smiled and immediately flew forward with Yi Ching Han. At the same time, she shouted coldly, "Not even half of the treasures. The beast god's soul has already been searched by her. His soul has been completely destroyed, and he has become a cripple. Everyone, attack and avenge the beast god." Although Gong Tian and the others didn't believe Zhu Yi's words, they couldn't die because of the beast god. All of them immediately roared and turned into several sharp arrows that shot forward. Yi Qinghan knew that Zhu Yi's decision was right, but his heart was burning with anxiety and pain. If Foxy made a move, he might blame himself for the rest of his life. But the situation was like an arrow on a bowstring, and it had to be released. He could only bet that Foxy wouldn't dare to make a move. At that moment, the Soul Exterminator was activated, and it shot straight at the Qilin half-beastman beside Foxy. "Stop! Let us go, and I will release him immediately." Foxy saw the Qilin half-beastman beside her being attacked by the Soul Exterminator by Yi Qinghan. Her body instantly trembled, and fear appeared in her eyes. In the distance, Gong Tian rushed over and was about to release his attack. Once the Soul Exterminator arrived, this Qilin half-beastman would also die. She quickly shouted, "Stop!" Yi Qinghan was delighted when he heard this and shouted. Zhu Yi, who was beside him, couldn't stop him in time. She could only sigh deeply. With this shout from Yi Qinghan, the good situation that she had racked her brains to build up was completely destroyed. It was just that Yi Qinghan's nature was like this. He valued relationships and righteousness. If he wasn't like this, would he still be Yi Qinghan? Would she still be so infatuated with him? Zhu Yi's mood became incomparably conflicted. As expected, a light flashed in Foxy's eyes, and she immediately ordered the Qilin half-beastman to retreat. She shouted, "I will do what I say. Let my people leave first, and I will stay here as a hostage. As long as you don't chase after me, I will naturally let your ancestor go after 3 days. If you dare to chase after me, Qi, bring the people away." The Qilin half-beastman and Foxy exchanged a few glances, and then immediately led all the other half-beastmen to retreat. After a moment, they disappeared into the vast white fog. Under Zhu Yi's lead, Yi Qinghan and Foxy confronted each other from afar. Although Zhu Yi felt that Foxy seemed to be faintly plotting something, when she saw the stubborn and determined look in Yi Qinghan's eyes, she didn't know how to persuade him. Foxy used a bit of her strength to help heal the beast god. She held the beast god's head tightly with one hand and stared at everyone with an extremely vigilant expression. Once Yi Qinghan made a move, she would immediately act. But in her heart, she sneered, 3 days, as long as I can drag this on for 3 days, His Majesty will arrive. His Majesty has such powerful strength and soul, and he even has a supreme spiritual treasure. When that time comes, the Immortal World Army will definitely be annihilated. Emperor Han Yi, this concubine will definitely make you wish you were dead, yet unable to live. Chapter 1352. This young man who comprehended the unyielding path is actually so loyal? Or is he so stupid? Because of one person, he gambled with so many lives? Rationally, he should have attacked earlier to keep all the half-beastmen here. But emotionally, what he did was right. Why am I feeling conflicted because of him? She stood on the peak of Mount Pan and frowned slightly. Her beautiful eyes flashed. Finally, her expression turned cold as she turned and walked into her small wooden hut. Pan Xing looked at Pan Shi in shock and frowned strangely. He didn't care and continued to observe the situation below. Could it be that half-beastman with snake head? His strength is among the top few in this plain battlefield. When he comes and starts a war with the divine realm, we will know once we see him, Pan Xing said calmly. He turned his gaze and started to observe the attacks and divine abilities of the experts in the other planes. Why? Why am I so concerned about an ordinary person recently? I control the reincarnation of life in Pangaea. Life and death are determined by fate. So what if he lives? So what if he dies? What does it have to do with me? I actually secretly reminded him. What's wrong with me? In Pan Shi's palace, Pan Shi's eyes were filled with confusion. She sat alone in the dreamlike purple palace and murmured to herself. Her beautiful eyes were filled with conflict and struggle. No, he isn't an ordinary person. He died a long time ago, but his soul descended to the divine realm. He even comprehended the path of supremacy. He is someone who has surpassed the reincarnation of life. Should I help him? Am I doing the right thing? Rationally, I shouldn't help anyone. But emotionally, I really want to help him? How can I be emotional? In everyone's heart, there was an angel and a devil lurking. Clearly, the high and mighty Pan, she who controlled the reincarnation of billions of lives in Pangea, was quietly fighting with the angel and devil in her heart. She didn't know that as she fought and struggled in her heart, she looked more and more like a person, a woman. Yi Qinghan was also struggling. Great Emperor, Foxy must be plotting something. She's stalling for time. There are definitely more than these few ninth-grade Supremes in the Beastmen plane. When I was fleeing back then, I sensed at least 5 or 6 powerful auras. She's waiting for reinforcements. Zhu Yi's words echoed in his ears. Yi Qinghan knew very well that Zhu Yi's guess was very likely correct. But what do you expect him to do? Kill this fox princess? Watch the beast god die? Would it work? Perhaps exchanging the beast god's life for a ninth-grade supreme martial artist could reduce the number of peak experts in the Beastmen dimension and reduce the strength of the Beastmen dimension's next attack. But how could he do such a thing? If he did that, would he still be Yi Qinghan? What was the point of living if he lost his heart and his true nature? He cultivated, struggled, worked hard, was so crazy, and was so persistent. What was it for? It was all because of some insistence in his heart. Although this insistence might be wrong, he still persisted. He looked around at the worried eyes of Zhu Yi, the Ice Queen, and the Wind Moon Monarchs, at the complicated expressions of the 5 from Gong Tian, and at the fanatical gazes of the 1 million Yi family soldiers. Finally, he made a decision. Zhu Yi, take the points and evacuate with everyone. There are 7 days left, which is enough for a month. Right now, almost all the powerful armies have gone to the bloody Gobi Desert. You only need to delay for 7 days, and you can return safely. Zhu Yi looked at the spatial ring that Yi Qinghan handed over and listened to his telepathic transmission. Her body trembled and her face turned extremely pale. She transmitted anxiously, "Great Emperor, what are you doing? What's the point of doing this? You can't save the beast god. Instead, you'll cause the death of everyone in the divine realm." Yi Qinghan shook his head and smiled. No. I've thought about it for a long time. Even if I'm discovered, Pan Xing will only kill me. Back then, he could have destroyed the divine realm, but he didn't. This shows that he has his reservations. He's not the only god emperor. He doesn't dare to act recklessly. Maybe I won't die. So, you should leave first. Once you leave, I can fight with all my might. Yi Qinghan thought for a long time. Although the old man in sackcloth said some strange things, he didn't seem to be hostile towards him. Moreover, the old man in sackcloth was the first person to see through his strange soul. In addition, the purple-robed young lady seemed to want to protect him. So, Yi Qinghan decided to take a gamble. This gamble was not entirely for the beast god. It was for Zhu Yi and everyone in the divine realm army, including the billions of people in the divine realm. There was no doubt that the Beastmen plane was powerful. If he left with them, Foxy would definitely follow. He didn't dare to watch the beast god die and kill Foxy. So if he left, the divine realm would be caught up by the Beastmen plane sooner or later. Since he had decided to take action, Zhu Yi and the others wouldn't be able to do much. It was better to let them leave with the points. At least if he died, the divine realm could still win and wouldn't be attacked by the other planes, right? No. Great Emperor, Yi won't let you do stupid things. Yi won't leave you, not even if I die. Zhu Yi shook her head continuously. Her expression was unusually firm and decisive. Stupid things? Haha. In life, if you can't be crazy for once, what's there to be happy about? Yi Qinghan grinned, but his eyes turned cold. His expression was even more determined than Zhu Yi's. He said in a low voice, "Yi, I have decided. If you don't leave, I swear that I will never love you again, never look at you again. Go, I, Yi Qinghan, have wandered my entire life. How many people have wanted my life? Aren't I still alive and well? Believe me, I am a man who can create miracles. Great Emperor, great Emperor." Zhu Yi howled in pain. and 2 streaks of tears flowed down from the corners of her eyes. Yi Qinghan said that he wouldn't love her and never look at her again. This was worse than letting her die. She looked at Yi Qinghan's determined gaze in a daze and chose to respect his decision. The order was passed down. Gong Tian and the rest were overjoyed, but the Million Yi family soldiers were as silent as a mountain. They did not say a single word. They would never question Yi Qinghan's orders. They would only obey unconditionally. Great Emperor Yu, on the contrary, Ice Queen's face flushed red. Her ice-cold eyes became watery. She sent a voice transmission, but didn't know what to say. Gong Tian, there is no need to say anymore. If I die, I will remove your soul contract and protect them. Yi Qinghan nodded towards Ice Queen and smiled. He saw Gong Tian's eyes shine, like he wanted to say something. He sent a voice transmission over. Gong Tian was delighted once more. He cupped his fists towards Yi Qinghan and brought his men back to the encampment. Under Foxy's weird expression, the people from the god world started to gather back. Only Yi Qinghan was left standing in front of her. Then, the people from the god world actually started to retreat. Not long later, they were all gone. Emperor Hanya, what are you doing? I am warning you, don't play any tricks. Foxy said solemnly. The hand that was grabbing the beast god's head tightened. A black destructive power wrapped around her hand. As long as she moved slightly, the beast god's head would instantly shatter and he would die. Yi Qinghan didn't bother about Foxy. He used his divine sense to scan the people from the god world. They were all moving quickly and orderly. Not long later, they disappeared from his divine sense. His entire body relaxed. He lazily placed the slaughter god blade on his shoulder and waited for an hour. When the people from the god world were far away, he looked at Foxy and smiled. I didn't do anything. Don't worry, I am not interested in a half-human, half-beast transvestite like you. However, if you don't release him after I count to 3, I don't mind using my slaughter god blade to stab you and let you have a good time. Chapter 1353. Pan-Shi, why do you keep going in and out? You've been acting strangely lately. Pan Xing was like a sword, releasing a murderous aura all the time. Every move he made was filled with murderous intent. Looking at Pan Shi, who kept going in and out, he couldn't help but squint his eyes and ask. Pan Shi didn't pay attention to Pan Xing. She tapped her feet lightly and took a step forward. Her body pierced through the void and flashed 10,000 meters away. In the blink of an eye, she stood at the edge of the cliff. Then she tilted her head slightly and said coldly, I don't want to meddle in your business. Don't meddle in mine either. Humph! Pan Xing snorted coldly. He couldn't turn his head away, but his murderous intent became even stronger. Pan Shi turned around with a strange expression, looking at the vast expanse of whiteness in the distance. Her watery eyes suddenly became more resolute. You dare to attack me? You don't believe that I will kill your Grand Elder? Foxy looked at the murderous face in front of her and felt a little panicked. The Heavenly Realms army left, leaving only the man in front of her. However, Foxy felt even more terrified. She had an inexplicable feeling that if Emperor Han Yi wanted to kill her, she would definitely die without a complete corpse in one move. Yi Qinghan's smile became even stronger. He said faintly, Of course I believe you. I also believe that my Grand Elder won't be able to live. When your army arrives, he will also die. So I'm prepared to use his life in exchange for yours. I think it's a good deal to trade a 9th grade superior for a 9th grade supreme martial artist. Yeah? Foxy trembled when she saw Yi Qinghan's eyes that seemed to be able to see through everything. She became even more panicked. He knew that she was stalling for time to wait for reinforcements. This meant that he was even more confident in arranging for the Heavenly Realms army to retreat. For a moment, Foxy's mind was in a mess. She couldn't think of any way to stall Yi Qinghan for a few days. I'll think about it. Foxy decided to stall for time. She forced herself to calm down and started to analyze. She couldn't hand him over. If she did, she would definitely die. If she didn't hand it over, and Yi Qinghan believed that his ancestor wouldn't be able to live, she would still die. If he delayed, the other party would know that a large army was coming from behind and would not foolishly wait for a few days. Foxy felt as if she had fallen into a dead end. No matter how she looked at it, she would have died. She started to regret retreating with the Chelan orc. He thought he was smart and wanted to delay the Celestial Realm army for a few days, but he ended up getting himself into a dead end. Just then, the beast god in her hand suddenly let out a cry of pain. Although Foxy was thinking, she had split a bit of her divine sense to lock onto the beast god and Yi Qinghan. Of course, he knew immediately. He also knew that this was the time limit of his bewitchment spell. The beast deity had woken up, and he had to use the bewitchment again. Ancestors. When Yi Qinghan saw the beast deity crying out in pain, his eyes also revealed a look of pain. The faint smile on his face disappeared and was replaced with a look of urgency. Murderous intent surged from his body, and he revealed a ferocious expression. He roared at Foxy, "If anything happens to my ancestor, I will tear you into pieces." Ha ha! When Foxy saw Yi Qinghan's expression, heard his words, and heard his sharp murderous intent, she wasn't afraid. Instead, she laughed out loud. The worry, fear, and conflict from before had all disappeared. The angrier Yi Qinghan was, the more anxious he was, and the more murderous he was, the more it meant that he cared about the beast deity. In other words, as long as the beast deity didn't die, she would definitely be safe. Yi Qinghan's various plans, his calm expression, his threatening tone, and the fact that he had pointed out Foxy's delaying tactic had made Foxy feel as if she was in a desperate situation. However, all these plans, and hard work had all gone to waste with a single cry of pain from the beast deity. Foxy's smile was like a flower. She had a foxy face, but she smiled with the charm of a peerless beauty. She said softly, "Don't worry, your ancestor is fine. Of course, if you don't cooperate, I will have to die with your ancestor." When she finished speaking, Foxy's eyes flashed a few times, and a green light shot toward the beast deity. The beast deity's body trembled violently, and he regained consciousness. Meanwhile, Foxy quietly turned the beast deity's head around to look at Yi Qinghan. The beast deity saw Yi Qinghan at first glance and was instantly ecstatic. "Little Han? Xiao!" Foxy moved her hand and turned the beast deity's body around again. Then, a green light flashed in her eyes, and a look of fear flashed across the beast deity's eyes. Then he became confused. "I'll ask you one last time. Are you going to let her go?" Yi Qinghan's heart was burning with anxiety, and he howled in pain. However, he had to pretend that he was about to attack. His eyes flashed, and it seemed like he was about to use a soul skill. "Can you do it? Let's see if your soul skill is faster, or if the soul thread I left in your ancestor's mind is faster. I can guarantee that the moment I'm hit by your soul skill, I'll immediately use the soul thread to destroy your ancestor's soul." Foxy was not afraid at all. She had already calculated that with Yi Qinghan's personality, he would definitely not dare to attack. She looked at Yi Qinghan calmly, and her eyes were full of mockery. As expected, the killing intent on Yi Qinghan's body gradually faded, and he sighed in his heart. He had originally had the upper hand, but now, because of the beast deity's unexpected cry of pain, he was at an absolute disadvantage again. Man proposes, God disposes. Foxy smiled, and she smiled like an old fox. No, she was an old fox to begin with. She said leisurely, "I can let your ancestor go, and I can even swear an oath to the Divine Emperor. How about we make a bet? Let's bet whether my people will arrive in 3 days. If they can't, I will let him go after 3 days. If they arrive in time, I will also let him go. In other words, no matter what, I will protect your ancestors' safety. Of course, your safety will depend on your luck and strength. If you have the ability to escape or kill us, I will accept my fate. How about it?" And Yi Qinghan's eyes lit up, and it was so hot that Yao Ji did not dare to look at him directly. Foxy was very smart, and she did not make any stupid conditions. This condition was very tempting, and it looked very fair on the surface. Yi Qinghan hesitated for a moment before keeping the slaughter god blade. He laughed angrily and said, "All right, I want to see if the strongest martial artist in the Beastman dimension can take my life. Swear it." "I swear to the Divine Emperor that no matter what, I will protect this person's safety. If he is killed by the martial artist in the Beastman dimension, I am willing to be struck by lightning and die a horrible death." Foxy did not hesitate at all as she swore in front of Mount Pan. It was not important whether a ninth-grade beast god died or not. What was important was that Yi Ching Han was willing to stay. Yi Ching Han had two supreme spiritual treasures on him. She would be able to answer to the snake-headed beastman. Yi Ching Han nodded, sheathed his blade, and stood upright. After making such a vicious oath in front of Mount Pan, the beast god was definitely safe. The two wishes he had left behind were to delay Foxy, let the Divine World Army leave safely, and save the beast god. At this moment, he had basically completed them. Yi Ching Han felt his whole body relax. He no longer had to worry about anything. The Divine Emperor that was suppressing him so much that he could not breathe had also been tossed aside. Now, he only wanted to fight with all his might. He wanted to see how powerful the power of cold was after it evolved. As for whether he would live or die, he would leave it to the heavens. Foxy's oath attracted the attention of the black-robed youth on Mount Pan. Pan Xing turned around with interest. After a while, he laughed loudly and said, Interesting. Someone actually made a Divine Emperor blood oath in front of me, and this great perfection soul realm martial artist is actually so arrogant, he wants to fight against so many martial artists in the Beastman dimension alone? 3 days? 3 days later, this snake-headed beastman will definitely arrive. A great perfection soul realm martial artist fighting against 5 ninth-grade supreme martial artists? And a group of ninth-grade supreme martial artists? Interesting. That you're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.